President Trump, with RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard and others, is preparing to bring out the truth about COVID, and that it was not just made in a lab in China, it was made by Obama and Fauci and the globalists, which is already on record. So we don't have Tulsi Gabbard, the head of national intelligence, saying, oh, we're going to expose the Chinese did it because they weren't the ones. No, it was Obama and Fauci and the globalists, and we're getting ready to bring it all out and indict them. We already have all the proof, but she's got the internal secret documents from the CIA meetings with Fauci. This is huge. You don't do this unless you're about to drop the hammer. And then she went on to say, we don't want new viruses released. Because what has Tedros and Bill Gates and all their other spokespersons and Fauci and Peter Daszak and Hotez said, oh, don't worry, a new pandemic will stop populists worldwide. Oh, we'll still get the carbon lockdowns. We'll still get depopulation. Ha, 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 ha. It's the globalists still trying to hold us hostage. Tedros, a few months ago, you better pass our UN health vaccine treaty, this global martial law, UN world government, or viruses are going to kill you. You better give us total control or global warming is going to kill you. And that's them cutting off the food and resources and energy and fertilizer that causes the third world to collapse. Then they flood us and the UN organizes them and does it. And they go, oh, the cities are all going to burn. Global warming. Oh, see, they're burning. Yeah, because you leave the power on in high winds and don't trim the trees for decades and then drain the water reservoirs and don't let people have water. Whether you're in Hawaii, they did the same thing there, in Maui, or whether the Palisades. It's the same administrative mass murder. And once people click and get how this works, just as the former deputy head of HUD has explained for decades, administrative terrorism, then you can't unsee it once you understand it. And then you read their white papers where they brag about it, how they'll use a virus to bring in their global government and their cashless society and their social credit score and to train you to be locked down when they tell you on a routine basis, getting you ready for carbon lockdowns and 15-minute cities, and it's all happening.
But the thing that we are working with Jay Bhattacharya, the new NIH director, on with, as well as Secretary Kennedy, is looking at the gain of function research that, in the case of the Wuhan lab, as well as many others around, many of these other biolabs around the world, was actually U.S. funded and leads to this dangerous kind of research that, in many examples, has resulted in either a pandemic or some other major health crisis.
Well, let me ask you specifically, because we already know that EcoHealth Alliance was partnering with this Wuhan lab to do gain of function research.
That's right.
We just have never been able to have somebody say, it was that exact experiment that led to this COVID bug. But have we gotten there? What's the new thing that you're digging in on?
We are working on that with Jay Bhattacharya and look forward to being able to share that. And the reason why this is so important is not just what happened in the past. It's because this gain of function research is happening in biolabs around the world. I got attacked, and I think you saw this. We've probably talked about it on your show before, when I warned against U.S.-funded biolabs in Ukraine when the Russia-Ukraine war kicked off for this very reason. Who knows what kinds of pathogens are in these labs, and if released, could create another COVID-like pandemic.
Well, on the heels of Zelensky finally signing the minerals deal that is really a deal for the U.S. to come in and take over economically Ukraine and build them back up with their own money to stop NATO using it as a power vacuum to continue wars. That's 80% of ending the war right there. All the real economic numbers coming in show that Trump's tariff war is working. He's pulled us out of the World Trade Organization in everything but name. Now they're dealing unilaterally with all these different countries. And almost every nation is going with the United States, including India, just this week. Then on top of that, we have the Maha RFK Jr. Tulsi Gabbard alliance effect. Because I know the inside baseball. I told you about this yesterday, and now you see it today. That he doesn't have access to these 16, 17 intelligence agencies. 17 if you count hers, the Office of National Intelligence that oversees them all. And she can go into any of those and get whatever she wants via the authority of the president. So he's like, yeah, we know HHS under Biden was given the authority over the kids so that they could disappear them. And now I'm working with other agencies, that's Gabbard, to get the names and find them. And we're going to go find and rescue the kids. See, the Border Patrol had all that taken away from them. Homan doesn't even have that. I mean, this is a Herculean job, but they're doing it. And then Kennedy also talked about, before even Trump got in or even got confirmed as HHS head, he said, we're going to bring out all the studies we know are already there. We've already got a lot of them, but a lot of them are secret, and they got caught erasing a bunch of them, but they were able to get them back. That was a month ago. Just they're hiding this stuff. And we're going to present it to everybody, and we're going to take the poison chemicals out. We're going to go after the shots. We're going to take away their liability protection. We're going to pull the fluoride out. And we're going to work with the states and attorney generals. If these companies don't do this, we're going to not just sue them, we're going to indict them. Even if the DOJ doesn't do it, because there's so much going on, or they're controlled, or whatever happens. You don't just count on that. And now I have stacks of developments here where it's all happening. Let me just show you some of the headlines, then I'll drill into them, so you get it in context first. Huge. Tulsi Gabbard is investigating Dr. Fauci for potentially perjuring himself during hearings with Rand Paul. Of course he did. We've caught him dead to rights on gain of function. She's on the verge of proving Fauci funded the gain of function research in Wuhan, resulting in COVID-19. No, it's already proven, but with her authority and even more documents that are secret, nailing his ass. Tulsi's going to drop the hammer, and we could be seeing Fauci and his cronies in cuffs. And I'm telling you, that's the plan. You got Kennedy coming out saying, yeah, it's DARPA and the Pentagon with the chemtrails. We're about to put a report together, and we're going to ban it. That's just yesterday. Then it goes on. Look at this. This is the effect. They already banned fluoride in Utah. Now they've just passed a law to ban it in Florida. A bunch of other states are doing it. Kennedy says they're about to move for that nationally in the next few months. But first, she's getting all the credibility together and all the reports and all beating the drum politically and doing all the big talk shows like Dr. Phil to get everybody behind it. Attorney General Ken Paxton launches investigations into companies for illegally marketing toothpaste products containing fluoride to kids, which lowers their IQ by design. Boom. See? The swarm effect. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth signed a memorandum to provide remedies for service members who were hurt by experimental COVID vaccines. Now those affected want to know if anyone was fired. So not just bringing people back that were fired for not taking it, but helping those that were hurt by it to then further showcase them, help them financially, and build the case to go after Big Pharma. This is what you do when you're undermining your target before you hit it, when you're poisoning the well with the truth. Because that's poison to the liars. RFK Jr. leaves News Nation panel speechless with brilliant point we'll play in a moment on measles. We're going to get to it all in a moment, and there's more. So this is a real revolution. And just what he's done so far in the first 101 days is, it's hard to say who the best is because there's been a lot of great results. Doge, Trump, of course, and then RFK Jr., and then Tulsi. And then the underperforming, I have to say it, we're moving into the area of big concern, Pam Bondi. Though she's a lovely person, and Trump has confidence in her. But I mean, we're on fumes here. We're going to start seeing some real action. Cash, I'd give he's done some good, Crossfire Hurricane, other things. And he's doing a lot of detector tests and going after the leakers and things. So the jury's, out right now on their score, not out on whether they're good or not. This keeps going on for a few more months and things. We'll start moving into that area. But I don't jump the gun on these things. But the Treasury Secretary, splendid job. His financial advisor, splendid job. The EPA head, excellent job. I mean, it's just Tom Homan, excellent job. Border Patrol, excellent job. Overall, just A+. But Tulsi, I mean, you know the formula, it's the truth formula. They come out, they build up, they set their case, and then they vaporize the enemy. And that's what's happening. And so we have the emails, we have conferences he headed up with government funding called in defense of gain of function. And we have him in the email saying, cover this up, get our scientists involved. He went to the CIA, organized them to do PR campaigns. I mean, he lied over and over again. You did gain of function. Here's the document. No, it is you, Senator, that is wrong. I never did that. And they developed COVID-19 at Chapel Hill, North Carolina. They tested at the University of Texas, Galveston. We covered all this 5 years ago. Hell, we covered it before they launched it. There was a scandal in 2015 over it. They had to move it offshore because a bunch of scientists blew the whistle. They were building gain of function, SARS, COVID viruses. And of course, the quote, mRNA vaccines to counter it. They had this whole thing set up. So, but she has access to all 17 intelligence agencies and to what Fauci did in all those meetings, day-long meetings, at least 4 of them we know of, at the CIA in person. And you do that to go into a secure skiff area where there's no bugs to plan some really evil crap, like the main bubble or skiff, the tank, as they call it, the Pentagon, the most secret area of the tank, planning the coups against Trump we now know about. So this is a real hot war actually going on right now for our country. So we already have him with EcoHealth Alliance and his own emails and the rest of it, but there's a bunch of other stuff we know because this was all cooked up by Obama and the Pentagon 2013, 14, 15. And of course, we had the top expert, Dr. Francis Boyle, on in January and February of 2020. Telling you everything that was going to happen. I mean, he wrote the U.S. chemical and biological weapons laws. He co-wrote the UN global treaties. He might know a little. That's not a fake academic right there. That guy, all he does is research, and he knows everybody. And he said everything was going to happen, and that the vaccine would be a bioweapon to erase your immune system. Of course, I got that from General Stubblebine and his wife, Rima Lebo, in 2009, because she was meeting with some of the heads of state running their mouths. So they've had this plan, and you got Peter Daszak working for Fauci saying in 2019 in an interview, oh yeah, we accelerated and mutated viruses gain of function, and we got vaccines already made to counter it. And you got Fauci going, soon a new virus out of China will hit, and we will have an mRNA shot for you. And we'll get past the FDA approval process with a new system. And they come in Trump and say, we'll be closed for years, sir. It takes 10 years. And then they have another advisor go, no, sir, we actually have this on the shelf. You'll be a hero. And that was the setup. So, and Trump knows that. Let me just give you the exclusive. He knows he got set up and he's pissed. And that's what Kennedy's there to do. Because Trump never admits when he gets set up or is wrong. Well, he did say he didn't know what he was getting into 8 years ago. He didn't realize how evil they were, and he's learned a lot. So he's gone as far as Trump does. But you're seeing his response to all this. And these are his people doing all this. So this is Trump. When you hear Kennedy talk, that's Trump. When you hear Gabbard talk, that's Trump. Marco Rubio, that's Trump. That's why he's a totally different person now. So this is the rollout of going at him. Because Trump knows they're planning to release a new virus. They said they would to counter him. Peter Hotez, oh, don't worry, a new virus is coming. That'll stop his recovery. He's the new spokesperson for the globalists. And you got Tedros over at the UN, WHO, same stuff. Yeah, it didn't come out of a bat, folks. It came out of a laboratory. So this is teeing Fauci and the whole thing right up to Obama and beyond and the bioweapon labs in Ukraine for their annihilation politically. Here's the clip.
But the thing that we are working with Jay Bhattacharya, the new NIH director, on with, as well as Secretary Kennedy, is looking at the gain of function research that, in the case of the Wuhan lab, as well as many others around, many of these other biolabs around the world, was actually U.S. funded and leads to this dangerous kind of research that, in many examples, has resulted in either a pandemic or some other major health crisis.
Well, let me ask you specifically, because we already know that EcoHealth Alliance was partnering with this Wuhan lab to do gain of function research.
That's right.
We just have never been able to have somebody say, and it was that exact experiment that led to this COVID bug. But have we gotten there? What's the new thing that you're digging in on?
We are working on that with Jay Bhattacharya, and look forward to being able to share that hopefully very soon.
Okay.
That specific
link,
correct, between the gain of function research and what we saw with COVID-19.
I mean, that would be extraordinary, because just so the audience knows, if that's true, if it was Peter Daszak's research with the Wuhan so-called bat lady that caused this pandemic, then we did fund it. Then Anthony Fauci helped fund the pandemic.
The thing that he denied over and over and over to Senator Rand Paul's questioning.
That's right, under oath.
Under oath, exactly. So is it any wonder that he sought a preemptive pardon for anything during a certain period of time by President Biden before he left office?
And then strong-armed and smeared people like Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, anybody who came out and said, I don't know if that's natural. This actually smacks of lab.
And the reason why this is so important is not just what happened in the past. It's because this gain of function research is happening in biolabs around the world. I got attacked, and I think you saw this. We've probably talked about it on your show before, when I warned against U.S.-funded biolabs in Ukraine when the Russia-Ukraine war kicked off, for this very reason. Who knows what kinds of pathogens are in these labs, and if released, could create another COVID-like pandemic. And for that, I was called a Russian asset. You're, trumpeting Putin's talking points, all of this nonsense, simply for speaking the truth and stating facts that, by the way, are still on U.S. Embassy Ukraine's website today about how the U.S. has funded these biolabs in Ukraine. But my point is, in order to prevent another COVID-like pandemic or another major health incident that could affect us in the world, we have to end this gain of function research and provide the evidence that shows exactly why and how it's in our best interest, the American people's best interest, to bring about an end to it.
President Trump, with RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard and others, is preparing to bring out the truth about COVID, and that it was not just made in a lab in China, it was made by Obama and Fauci and the globalists, which is already on record. So we don't have Tulsi Gabbard, the head of national intelligence, saying, oh, we're going to expose the Chinese did it because they weren't the ones. No, it was Obama and Fauci and the globalists, and we're getting ready to bring it all out and indict them. We already have all the proof, but she's got the internal secret documents from the CIA meetings with Fauci. This is huge. You don't do this unless you're about to drop the hammer. And then she went on to say, we don't want new viruses released. Because what has Tedros and Bill Gates and all their other spokespersons and Fauci and Peter Daszak and Hotez said, oh, don't worry, a new pandemic will stop populists worldwide. Oh, we'll still get the carbon lockdowns. We'll still get depopulation. Ha, 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 ha. It's the globalists still trying to hold us hostage. Tedros, a few months ago, you better pass our UN health vaccine treaty, this global martial law, UN world government, or viruses are going to kill you. You better give us total control or global warming is going to kill you. And that's them cutting off the food and resources and energy and fertilizer that causes the third world to collapse. Then they flood us, and the UN organizes them and does it. And they go, oh, the cities are all going to burn. Global warming. Oh, see, they're burning. Yeah, because you leave the power on in high winds and don't trim the trees for decades and then drain the water reservoirs and don't let people have water. Whether you're in Hawaii, they did the same thing there. in Maui or whether the Palisades. It's the same administrative mass murder. And once people click and get how this works, just as the former deputy head of HUD has explained for decades, administrative terrorism, then you can't unsee it once you understand it. And then you read their white papers where they brag about it, how they'll use a virus to bring in their global government and their cashless society and their social credit score and to train you to be locked down when they tell you on a routine basis, getting you ready for carbon lockdowns and 15-minute cities. And it's all happening. And it all overlays, like Palisades was designated 2 years ago as a 50-minute city. And when Maui happened, I said, I bet Palisades is next. Some of the most expensive real estate in the world, in a tinderbox, with leftists running it, designated as a 50-minute city, but the people won't sell their houses, so you burn it down. And it happened. People see that clip, they go, how the hell did he do that? This ain't hard, people, once you're not naive. And people are going to stop being naive, or you're going to live in a world of you-know-what. And the good news is people are getting it. And there are more developments by the minute happening. Kennedy's in Texas right now to the farmers with the water supply. There's all sorts of pesticides and herbicides that are not as toxic and don't cause all this. They chose pesticides in America, banned everywhere else, like atrazine. And Kennedy's down there telling farmers, you're going to have to move away from this. He's down there building the case, getting the farmers on board to ban it right now, this minute he's speaking. That's action, Jackson. And people are so cynical and so used to just having evil running things that I see it constantly. Oh, Jones is cheerleading Trump. Yeah, the good stuff he's doing, I'm not cheerleading him. I'm battling with him to get it done. Fluoride already coming out of the water all over the place. Vaccines openly about to lose their vaccine exemption, which then they'll be banned because they won't put it out if it doesn't have liability protection. The tens of thousands of chemicals coming out of the food. They're going after the atrazine. They're going after all of it. And you talk about a new economy based on new innovation and things that aren't toxic. That's the opposite of the fake green economy. That's the real green economy. And it empowers us financially and health-wise. And of course, the health-wise is the most important. That's your real asset. I mean, this is just fantastic. Because I've watched what Gabbard and RFK Jr. do. And they're of action. And when they start saying they're going to do something, they do it. Usually within a month. You took methylene blue about 30 minutes ago. Are you feeling it?
I think I am.
Well, you told me during the break something. Repeat what you said is happening. You feeling the...
I feel like that stuff in my fingers. I feel tingling fingers.
You're feeling the Palpatine love?
I think I feel the Palpatine love, yeah.
Well, go ahead and there's the camera. Blast them with...
You won't hear that in the mainstream media because all they want to do is talk about those illegal aliens that poor mean Trump is throwing out. Oh my gosh, it's horrible. We can't talk about the 4 years that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris allowed an invasion of the United States of America. And Trump is now trying to clean it up. Good evening. Thanks for joining us on a Monday night here at Real America with Dan Ball. Greatly appreciate y'all, folks. Holman detailing the success of Trump's deportation campaign while slamming the Biden regime for deliberately allowing millions of illegal invaders to infiltrate the good old US of A.
I've been at this for over 40 years. I worked for 6 presidents, starting with Ronald Reagan. Every president ever worked for took border security seriously because you can't have national security if you don't have strong border security. We got to know who's coming in, what's coming in, where's coming in, why it's coming in, right? Even President Obama and President Clinton took some steps to secure the border because they understood national security was important. Joe Biden was the first president in the history of this nation who came in office and unsecured a border on purpose.
There's no way you can describe what the Biden regime did. And again, I don't know if Joe knows what he did. We know a lot of the signatures were auto pen. We know his mental decline. Does he know he allowed 15 to 18 million illegals in? I don't know. President Trump continues to push forward with his plans, though, signing 2 executive orders earlier today to continue to secure our southern border. According to the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, the first order will strengthen and unleash American law enforcement to pursue criminals and protect innocent citizens. The second is going to start a crackdown on sanctuary cities, which the White House says hinders enforcement from doing their.
Coming up next, chaos ensues after an electrical blackout strikes the Iberian Peninsula, causing Spain and Portugal to be plunged into darkness. More details after the break.
My name is Julon Musk. I went to a Hebrew preschool. 2/3 of my friends are Jewish. Oy vey, oy vey, oy vey, oy vey, oy vey, oy vey. Oy vey, oy vey. Hashem. Hashem, protect us Jewish people. My name is Julon Musk. I went to a Hebrew preschool. 2/3 of my friends are Jewish. Oy vey, oy vey, oy vey, oy vey, oy vey, oy vey.
So the onus will be on them to take off these tariffs.
Interesting. Well, along those same lines comes a new report about the opening of a new factory in Delaware. According to this exclusive report from the Wall Street Journal, the pharmaceutical giant Merck is investing $1 billion into a plant in Delaware to expand its manufacturing here in the US. And the plant itself will produce biologic drugs. They'll also manufacture a new, easier-to-use version of the company's cancer treatment drug, Keytruda. It's a clear move to avoid the impact of tariffs, yes, and it also sets an example for other companies that are seeking to avoid any economic penalties moving forward. And there's more where that came from, of course, because according to this exclusive report from Axios, Walmart, one of the world's largest retailers, is expanding its support for products made here in the US through brand new programs specifically designed to help small businesses in America. Will this program ultimately lead to lower prices and better business conditions? That question remains to be answered. But this never-before-seen move could mark the start of America's comeback on the world stage. And that seems to be the White House's ultimate goal. And all this movement in just 100 days. So let's see what the next 100 will bring. Here with reaction is Phil Raboli, the Senior Director of Government Relations for the Conservative Partnership Institute. Phil, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me on.
So there is a lot to cover and we only have so much time. I want to start big picture. What do you make of the last 100 days?
Well, I think I just want to quote what President Trump himself said when he had that joint address to Congress with regard to immigration and securing the border. We didn't need new legislation. What we needed was a new president. And he has absolutely succeeded well beyond what we even thought he'd be able to do, not only in securing the southern and northern border, but also in forcing private businesses and other countries to come to the negotiating table and figure out ways to make these trade deals fair on both sides. That's always been President Trump's biggest thing going back 40 years is fairness. And he wants Americans treated with the same sort of fairness and equity that foreign workers are treated with.
Yeah, well, and you know what really sticks out to me, most importantly, along with what you just said there, is the fact that Trump is even here in the first place. This is a very wealthy man. He could be on a beach somewhere, sipping on a cocktail, just enjoying retirement. But instead, he came out of that world to jump into this swamp, this beast that we call politics, solely for love of country. And I think we all saw that love on July 13th of last year when he was, shot in the ear. This is someone who's so profoundly loving of the American people and this country and what it stands for that he would literally face a bullet for it. So agree with his policies. Maybe people disagree with his policies. I think we can all agree that speaks volumes about the fact that he really genuinely loves the American people and wants to do anything he can to help this country get back on the right track.
And the best part about the career that he's had in private industry is he has surrounded himself with some incredible talent. You named a few of them in your monologue. These are people that genuinely believe in the president's vision and what he wants to accomplish, but more importantly, what the American voter voted on in November. There's the meme going around on the internet, this is what I voted for. This is what I voted for. This is what people voted for. And he is accomplishing a lot of that in a lot of areas. Obviously, he's got about another 3.5 years to go. And it's going to be incredible to watch what he's able to accomplish, not only by himself, but also with the team of people that he's placed around him and the people that those secretaries have hired in the administration to execute on those goals.
Yes, and just going through some of them. So securing the border. We went from the worst border crisis, certainly in modern American history, to the most secure border maybe we've ever had. Then there's economy, bringing down core inflation, working on prices, renegotiating the terms of trade. There's ending weaponized government, looking at Doge and corruption and misspending in this government, and there's plenty of that. Then fighting for peace on the world stage, setting this example of pushing for peace instead of perpetuating war. That means a lot to me, and I think that's really important. And then I want to get your thoughts about this as well, Phil. The level of transparency that we're seeing right now, constant meetings, bringing people into the Oval Office, constantly being on social media. This is complete and total transparency, and that might mean more to me than anything else.
I think this president's administration understands that nowadays you can't just filter everything through the big three cable networks, through the corporate press. You have to put things on social media. You have to put things through alternative media, because that's where people are watching. That's where they're sharing information. And he truly understands that, and the team around him understands that more than just about any other administration. They've evolved, even from his first term as president, as good as they were sharing information publicly. What's going on right now with the president, with the morning briefings with the press, with his cabinet briefings, even with his own posts online, it's like nothing anybody has ever seen before.
You're right about that. It's historic. Now, to be fair, there have been some missteps along the way, granted, and he's clearly learned a lot in the last 100 days. So on that note, because we have about 30 seconds here on the clock, Phil, what do you want to see this administration focus on in the next 100 days?
I want us to keep talking about and focusing on bringing jobs back to America and securing the border. I think those two things are related. I think the president and his administration understands that. We can't have a country if we don't have a secure border. But what's it all for if Americans don't have good paying jobs to go to every day and support their families and support their children and help them live the kind of life that they grew up having? That's what this is about at the end of the day. He deeply cares about the future of this country, not just making sure that we have a few extra points on the stock market today. He's looking at the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. He's looking at generational change that went basically south over the last 40 years. And he's trying very quickly to undo that damage. And it's not going to happen overnight. He understands it's slow, and he's looking at generational change.
Absolutely. Very well said. This is a transformative time in our nation's history. And really, it's ultimately about protecting our nation and making sure that we can go the distance. So I really love to see what's going on. I hope we see a lot more of it. I hope they get more aggressive actually moving forward, because the clock is ticking and there's a lot of work to be done. So Phil, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up next, after the White House displays lawn signs highlighting illegal immigrant crime, they have one simple message for illegal immigrants: you cannot hide. More details after the break.
Trumptastic. Yeah, I'm on my MAGA shit. Yeah, I'm fresh to death, like I'm hopping out my casket, bitch. Yeah, I'm on my MAGA shit. 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 Yeah, I'm fresh to death, like I'm hopping out my casket, bitch. Trips around the Atlas, had me ballin' like a globe. Try to double dribble, slam dunk, I'm dripping through the paint, nigga. Yeah, I'm on my MAGA shit. Yeah, I'm on my MAGA shit. Yeah, I'm fresh to death, like I'm hopping out my casket, bitch. Trips around the Atlas, had me ballin' like a globe. Try to double dribble, slam dunk, I'm dripping through the paint, nigga. Everything I touch turns to glitter, I'm a lucky charm. Fettuccine Alfredo mixed it with the Parmesan. EBS coming in and ringing like a car alarm. Honey, I shrunk the kids about the size of a peppercorn. USA flag and I stitched it with the Betsy Ross Baywatch Barbie. Then I hit her with the hats off. Proud man, Oculus, I had to take my glasses off. Sammy Sosa flow, yeah, I had to change.
that climate change is essentially happening, man-made climate change is happening, and they're conceding that because then they're going to pivot and say, well, it's just not that bad, so it's not a danger. The problem with that is the good news for the Trump administration is avoids an entire scientific report, a dossier, reaching out to Nobel Prize-winning physicists like Dr. John Clauser, MIT climate scientists like Richard Lindzen, NASA scientists like John Christie and Roy Spencer, et cetera, Obama administration scientists like I can't remember his name now. We ran Obama's energy department. All of these scientists, Princeton scientists, they can avoid all of that essentially by trying to argue against the UN and just basically say, yeah, we're going to cut our losses and say, yeah, it's happening, but it's not dangerous. Next, not even sure it's going to be successful. I'm a little worried because this, as we've said, this is the endangerment finding. This is the holy grail of the entire climate basis in the United States, the basis for gas-powered car bans, the basis for solar wind mandates, the basis for the Inflation Reduction Act, the basis for the whole Green New Deal, the basis for agricultural restrictions. We have to get rid of this. They think they can get rid of it. And the only other problem is the permanence. You overturn it, it's gone. You do a pivot like this, guess what happens the next president? President Nikki Haley or President Gavin Newsom, they can just pivot right back and we're right back in. So I'm not happy. It's a little early. I'm not ready to condemn the Trump administration on it yet. I need more. This is a political article. It hasn't happened yet, but it does seem very credible that this is the path they're taking.
Okay, that's fascinating. But speaking of energy departments too, Chris Wright, the current energy department head, he's been talking about some interesting things regarding Joe Biden and his war on fossil fuels. And it was certainly a war. But it turns out Joe Biden, he railed against them for years and years and years just to turn around right before Election Day and drain the strategic reserve to bring down the price of oil. So I do want to run this clip of Chris Wright and then get your thoughts about that, Mark.
Sure.
Is the price right enough, pun intended, I suppose, Mr. Secretary, to refill the Strategic Petroleum Reserve right now?
Oh, absolutely. We are refilling the reserve now, and we will continue to refill the reserve the whole time I'm in office. You know, that was just such an irresponsible action to drain that reserve so quickly for electoral reasons. And in fact, it was drained so fast, it did some damaging to the facilities. And so right now, we only can fill 2 of the 4 major salt caverns we have. So we're doing repair work on the other 2. We're slowly filling the other 2. And I'm trying to get some funds through Congress that'll give us a longer term runway to fill the Strategic Petroleum Reserve at the fastest rate we can.
So they damaged the facilities. The irony. Mark, take it from here.
Yeah, well, first of all, how refreshing is it to have an energy secretary thinking on the right path? We need energy, we need a reserve, thinking long-term and thinking strategically, not politically. Yes. And it's amazing when they drained that strategic preserve right after the Ukraine war, for the midterm elections. It was like unprecedented, just sucking it. They drained it to levels not seen since the 1970s. And I don't know the mechanics yet. I haven't seen the full report. But I mean, this is like, they're at capacity, draining it, probably overheating stuff, having problems with piping. They just wanted that oil out. Why? Just so your audience is 100% clear here, Riley. They wanted gas as low as possible so that when the voters went to the polls and the midterm elections, gas prices would be as cheap as humanly possible, even if they damaged the petroleum reserve and even if they completely wiped away our energy security for real emergencies in America. And a midterm election is not an energy security emergency.
No, and it shows that Biden was really just full of it the entire time, just completely self-serving. So it's interesting coming back to Spain and Portugal. We'll see what they come out with for the official cause, but I think there are a lot of questions here about their energy security, and we'll just see how they respond to those.
Yeah, the good news is a lot of Europe is turning against this, and this may help actually the incident in Spain and Portugal. You have the German elections where the prime minister who won actually openly mocked the climate goals, and of course throughout Europe, the EU Parliament had big elections last summer, which halted temporarily at least the Green New Deal in Europe. So there's a lot of hopeful news, and hopefully other countries can follow Trump's path.
Okay, sounds good, and thank you for your time today, Mark.
Thank you, Riley.
Coming up next, new research reveals the undisclosed dangers of chemical abortions. More details after the break.
Hi, I'm Caleb, and this is my story. I was born with osteogenesis imperfecta, or brittle bone disease. I have broken my bones almost 200 times, and I have had 11 surgeries. But I didn't let that stop me. I love to bike ride, climb, race, and I'm learning how to stand and walk. But I can only do all of this because of generous people like you and Shriners Hospitals for Children.
Because of people like you, Shriners Hospitals for Children has helped more than 1.3 million kids just like me, regardless of their family's ability to pay.
Shriners Hospitals for Children is only able to provide this world-class, life-changing medical care because of the generous gifts of people just like you.
Because of you, I can ride my bike. I can play basketball.
Because of people like you, I can run.
I can smile.
Will you send your love to the rescue today?
When you go to loveshriners.org right now and give just 63 cents a day, you're helping kids just like me.
Like me. Like me. When you give today, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a thank you and a reminder of the love you gave to a kid just like me.
Your gift, no matter how small, can help a child today.
This is your moment to make a difference.
When you pick up your phone, you know you have it right there. And call to give. You're helping kids like me. Thank you. Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Please call or go online now. If operators are busy, please call again or give right away at loveshriners.org.
Your gift makes a difference. Thank you for giving.
Welcome back to The Real Story. The abortion pill harms women. This is the name of a study published just this month that reveals that over 1 in 10 women suffer some form of serious or possibly life-threatening adverse event after taking the chemical abortion pill mifepristone. Mifepristone was originally approved by the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, way back in 2000, and the current drug label, based on the results of 10 clinical studies of nearly 40,000 women, only lists a 0.5% risk of having an adverse reaction. And this study by the Ethics and Public Policy Center reveals that the risk of serious adverse events from this pill may actually be around 22 times higher than the FDA currently recognizes. This means almost 11% of women taking this pill experience something like sepsis or hemorrhaging, among other serious adverse effects. We previously discussed this story, by the way, demonstrating this, about a New York doctor who was in very hot water for sending mifepristone to 2 out-of-state patients. And it turns out both girls ended up in the hospital from taking this drug. So, not 1 in 10, but 2 out of 2 patients had serious effects, adverse effects, from the pill in this instance. And a similar study was also conducted by the Foundation for the Restoration of America that pulled information from insurance claims between 2017 and 2023 to gather data about this. And the study found that from 2018 to 2022, an average 10.6% of women experienced an adverse event from the pill itself. But for 2022 and 2023, that average rose to 11.7%. This affects tens of thousands of women all across the country, all over the US, and reports of these events seem to be rising each and every year without much consternation from the legacy media. Here with special insight into the study is Doug Truax, the founder and president of Restoration PAC. Doug, thank you for joining me, sir.
Thanks for having me on, Riley.
So this bombshell study, it's fascinating and very important. So what can you tell us about it?
Well, it gets to the heart of a lot of lying that's been going on over the years. I think like what you were just covering, where the FDA began and where we're showing they're ending up is vastly different places. I think it's a good news, bad news story. The good news is I think that there's going to be a lot of women out there. They're going to read these studies now. They may be watching today. They may have friends that are thinking about taking this. They're going to think twice before they do it, as well they should. This is a risk factor that it's similar to saying, well, you know, if I'm going to go flying, I know that planes crash, but I know the risk, it's very low, right? Mm-hmm. If you know the risk is 1 in 10 that you're going to have an adverse effect, you're going to think again about taking this pill. And what's been happening over the years, especially with the Biden administration, they've just been pushing it out the door and just telling everybody, just take the pill, it'll be fine. They are just hell-bent on increasing abortion all over the country. And especially when Dobbs came through and Roe went out, they doubled down on it. And so now we've got a situation where we have thousands and thousands of women who are being harmed by this and didn't know it going in. And we need to get to the bottom of it. What the FDA knew, when they knew it, who said okay to it, and kept it moving. But this is just the beginning, but it's good that the truth is out.
Yes, well, because when I was looking at it, the first thought that occurred to me, Doug, was maybe a couple of things are going on here. Number one, protecting this giant industry that's behind this, that's the drug maker itself, that's making tons and tons of money off of this product. Or number two, it could be ideological because Biden, to your point, did push this to extreme measures. So I don't know which one of those it is, and maybe it's something else, but what are your thoughts about that, Doug?
Oh, that's 100% to me. I think it's all ideological at this point. I mean, you can see over the years that politicized bureaucrats are just pushing the data that they want you to see. That's not true a lot. We've seen this in COVID and climate, health everywhere, crime. That's all over the place, right? And so the number one reason we have the government in general is to protect us on some level. And so you have the Food and Drug Administration, who is now basically politicizing data to push their agenda and harming women. And we need to be looking out for our women, our young women who are thinking about doing this, and saying to them, it's not what you think. I'm pro-life all the way. I don't want to see another abortion, period. But I'll tell you what, if people are thinking about doing this, they need to know the risks for real, just like any other drug that would be out there in our country. And this one in particular, and it's blatant politicizing of data over time. And I think there needs to be congressional hearings. We need to get this. Hopefully the drug comes off the market, because that in itself, there are now hundreds and hundreds of thousands of these abortions every year with this drug. And so even though you're looking at our data, we're looking at a subsection of all the insurance claims, not the whole thing. And so you can just say to yourself, well, whatever you're looking at there, it's a lot worse than that, because you can't get it all, because there's a lot of cash payers and different things floating around. And like we were saying, the Biden administration was just pushing the pills out the door like crazy. All the restrictions, when it first came out, you had to go see a doctor 3 times before you got a prescription. Now you just get it in the mail. It's crazy.
It is.
Crazy.
It doesn't make any sense. And it is sad to see that Biden put agenda before science and safety, because like you said, maybe people will take this in states where it's available, fine, but you at least need to be aware of the possible effects. And it also, it begs a question too, regarding the FDA's position on this matter. At what point do we have to see them? I mean, here's what I would say actually. How dangerous does it have to be until the FDA decides to pull it off the market, or at least recommend that they do? Because this is really sad. We've seen this with other drugs that have been FDA approved before. And I don't know if we're hearing anything from them about this study, but I have a lot of questions for them myself.
Yeah, that's right. And so that is the main question. How dangerous does it have to be before they say no? The answer on something like this, no more than 2%. And so in the label, it says 0.5%, which is really low number, and it's been that way for a long time. And but if it goes above 2, the FDA is seriously looking at shutting the whole thing down, and they're at 11. Okay. So there's no reason to keep going like we are with this. This is a whole new day. We got to take a step back and say, okay, this got really out of control. What do we need to do here? I think just from the outside looking in, I'm not an FDA official, but an outside looking in, we need to stop selling this thing and start asking the questions. How did this even get through and get to the place that we're in today? And a lot of women who have been harmed over the years, I don't know what they're going to be saying to themselves. I mean, I think about the amount of young women who hemorrhaged significantly, and maybe they can't have kids. I mean, this is serious stuff, and they just political ideology. Just more abortion is the answer, and it's not. Never has been. Yeah. Always less. You know, and now we have to have a conversation about this bill.
I completely agree with you. But setting that point aside as well, because I'm personally very strongly pro-life, but there's the transparency issue and the fact that the FDA has this pattern of issues with the approval process. I want to get your insights into that actually, Doug, while we have you here, because I've read about it, sure, but I'm not an expert here. And I'd love to get your thoughts about any issues that need to be addressed when it comes to how they look at drugs and how they approve them before they go to the market.
Yeah, well, I'd tell you on this one in particular, the first place you got to look is, how did this originate? What's been going on? Ironically, we did Restoration News did a whole story on this as well. Back in the early 90s, the funding for this drug itself came from a lot of different sources, but one of them was the most prolific pro-abortionist that's probably ever lived, and that's Warren Buffett. He has spent so much money getting this developed and getting it going,
And so you got to look at the origins. Okay, what's the ideology of what's happening here? And a ton of those groups back then, when this was getting off the ground, was built around, well, we just need to population control in third world countries and things like that, just stuff that is just horrific. And they kept it going. And so I think what happens is you pour enough money into these things in the beginning and you get the right administration. I mean, the Clinton administration pushed it hard as it went through, and you got to start at that spot right there. Like who's doing this and why are they doing it? And that should be the number one reason to begin with. And if it's ideology, then you got to take a step back and say, what are we really doing? And then the ongoing studies, because obviously if they're relying on a study from, the early 90s, then now we have this data. Okay, they need to be looking at stuff continually because things change. And even if they didn't have a study that looked similar, even if that was partially right back then, it looks like it's completely wrong now. So fix it, that's what they need to be doing.
Yeah, more proactivity and less reactivity from our health officials,
right.
People that are supposed to be protecting the men and women of this great country. So we'll see what happens, but just final 30 seconds for you then, Doug. What is your message to people out there that have been lied to about this, that have been woefully misinformed, and even for people who've been victim to some of these adverse effects?
Yeah, call your senators, call your congressmen, ask them what the heck is going on. They are the ones that they're your representative to help you right away, because that's who's going to be calling the FDA to court, is to account is congressional hearings. Okay. And so everybody should be doing that no matter where you live. And even if you're living in a blue state and you got harmed by this and you think, well, they're not going to do anything, well, log that call and then call a conservative congressman as well. And just make your voice heard. This will come out. The truth always sets everybody free. They just gotta work it. We just gotta work through it. But it's a new day. We at least know the truth now.
Okay, very well said. And Doug, thank you for your insights about this. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
Coming up next, a real good news story about how good things really do come in small packages, at least sometimes. More details after the break.
Studies show that when you hear better, you feel better and actually live a happier and healthier life. So Nano Hearing Aids is offering two very special offers. When you buy any Nano OTC hearing aid, Nano will give you a pair of Nano personal sound amplifiers free. And Nano is offering an amazing deal on their CIC Recharge OTC hearing aids. You can order a full pair for only $297. Payments from only $26.81 a month, 88 cents a day.
1-800-231-6205.
Need life insurance? SelectQuote found Jacob, 40, a $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. And SelectQuote found his wife, Wendy, a $500,000 policy for only $17 a month.
Our secret? At SelectQuote, we aggressively comparison shop up to 10 highly rated companies to find you the company with the best rates. Why pay more? Give your family the security they need at a price you can afford. SelectQuote. We shop, you save.
Sometimes business travel takes you to London, Paris, New York, Rome, Beijing, or Hawaii. And sometimes to Palawan, Mimaropa. Here at Book a Limo, we think globally. We think business, your business. It doesn't matter where you go. No place is too far. We're there for you.
What's your destination? Book a limo. Any car, anywhere.
Stay tuned to get 2 rolls of Alien Tape free.
Introducing Alien Tape, the double-sided ultra-strong tape that bonds instantly and holds on tight. Alien Tape's nano grip technology sticks instantly to almost anything. There are hundreds, maybe even thousands of uses for Alien Tape. Now here's your chance to try Alien Tape's TV offer.
Order today, and you can get 2 additional rolls of Alien Tape absolutely free. Click or call right now.
Welcome back to The Real Story. The great Abraham Lincoln once said, famously, you can make a general in about 5 minutes, but a good horse is hard to replace. And I believe that goes for every shape and size of horse there is. And that's the topic on today's edition of Real Good News, which, by the way, this is a very special viewer-submitted story about how good things really do come in small packages. So these miniature horses are part of an amazing organization known as Kind-Hearted Mini Therapy, which provides therapeutic support to children and adults alike. The miniature horses and their keeper, Jody, make visits to hospitals, to schools, to assisted living facilities, and really anywhere else someone is in need of emotional support. And their goal is simple. It's to create joyful memories, uplift people's spirits, and create a safe and nurturing environment where people can really thrive. Now, the miniature horses and Jody do room-to-room visits, group visits, and even private in-home visits. And the miniature horses themselves recently visited Seattle Children's Hospital to lift the spirits of children there. 7-year-old Luna also has a book being published about her called Luna Bell's Superpowers, which is about the power of healing through assisted animal therapy. Kind-Hearted Mini Therapy also operates solely on donations, and they visit people all across the state of Washington. So if you'd like to donate to their cause, you can do so via their website at kindheartedminitherapy.org. And again, as I mentioned previously, that story was submitted by one of our very own viewers, Jody herself. So if you have a real good news story you'd like us to highlight, then please send it to us. And that concludes today's broadcast. We truly hope you enjoyed it. And remember, we always want to hear from you, so please email your feedback and any news stories you'd like us to cover to therealstory@oann.com. And follow us on social media at The Real Story OAN. And don't forget that you can watch full episodes of The Real Story on demand on OAN Live. So until we meet again, God bless you, God bless our troops, and God bless America.
Good evening and welcome to Fine Point, where no narrative is sacred, no media hoax is safe, and we zero in on the big picture. I'm your host, Chanel Vian. Can you feel it in the wind? 1775. Again. Trump's first 100 days, part 2. Trump's fans and voters are celebrating obvious sea changes. Illegal border crossings dropped by 94% compared to February 2024. With some sectors seeing a 99% reduction within the first 50 days of Trump's term. Trump's deregulation juggernaut just put $2,100 back in every family's pocket, $180 billion in savings. That's what happens when you unshackle the American economy. 130 executive orders in 100 days, including DOGE to gut the bureaucracy. He's weaponized his executive orders against the federal government, not against the American people, as it has been in the past. Trump's detractors highlight Trump's plummeted poll numbers. They're the lowest ever. Gallup finds Trump's ratings at 37% approval. That same poll shows that while Trump is polling low, Democrats are faring worse, far worse, at 27% approval. Yikes. 7 out of 10 in one poll said the Democrat Party has lost their way. And who could blame them? The Dems have been on quixotic, margarita-drenched rescue missions trying to rebrand MS-13 as poor, innocent Maryland fathers. And behind the scenes, they're knifing each other with butter knife jabs in a brutally confused fight for the Democrat throne. I take a different angle. I think Trump will go down in history as the greatest president we've had. He will surpass Washington and Lincoln easily. And all the good stuff his fans are celebrating, they're great. Promises made, promises kept. Keep going. Tonight, I celebrate something else entirely, a Trump legacy no one seems to be talking about. Trump is the one president who has decided that securing America's energy grid is a #1 priority. An unsecure energy grid is prone to devastating blackouts, and in this modern age, blackouts can be deadly. Literally. It just happened all over Europe.
Much of Western Europe was plunged into a widespread power outage on Monday, wreaking havoc on travel. The unprecedented blackout impacted parts of Spain, France, and Portugal for hours. Subways and traffic lights went dark, slowing travel to a halt. The cause of the blackout wasn't immediately known, but it wasn't believed to be due to weather. However, as temperatures fall in the evening, residents with no reliable heat source could be chilly if power isn't restored by nightfall.
And that's not even talking about the medical industry that is affected when power goes out. They rely on generators, but for only so long. So what has happened in Portugal and vast swaths of Europe just this week can happen here, but at a much costlier scale. You see, America's energy grid is comprised of 3 grids: East Coast grid, the West Coast grid, and of course the Texas grid. We have, as a nation, about 55,000 substations. These are so fragmented and operating on different systems, it would be hard to knock them out in a concerted effort. That's the good news. That said, it's not impossible. A leaked Federal Energy Regulatory Commission report from 2013 found that if saboteurs knocked out just 9 strategic substations out of our 55,000 substations, it would take out the entire U.S. energy grid for at least 18 months. The death toll? It was estimated at 90%. 90. Modern America cannot live without power. The kicker? America's substations come from China. It takes a long time to build them, but the Chinese know all about every single substation we have. A motivated actor would know the 9 substations to target and how to take all of America down with one cyber attack. Trump knows this, and he's deeply concerned about it. So concerned, he signed an executive order on the matter way back in his first term. Trump Executive Order 13920, securing the United States bulk power system, issued on May 1, 2020. What did it do? Well, for starts, it banned the acquisition, importation, transfer, or installation of electric equipment from foreign adversaries, particularly China. You won't believe what happened next. Joe Biden came along, and of all the things on Biden's priority list, right there at the top, right there on day 1, Biden rescinded Trump's grid securing effort against China in the name of climate change. Fact checkers, of course, will scream foul and say, "Nuh-uh, Biden only paused Trump's executive order for review." Classic. Yes, Biden paused Trump's efforts to secure our grid for 90 days. And when that 90 days was up, Biden did nothing to renew any real efforts to secure our grid. He apparently thought it was wise to put some limitations on China, so he kept those. But ultimately, he did nothing to secure our grid. And when that 90 days went out, well, nothing happened. He did not install any other plan to replace it. So all he wanted was to spite Trump. And Snopes, of course, the fact checkers, they don't mention any of this, do they? Of course not. Biden let the executive order expire and die. Remember, on Biden's watch, we also had Chinese balloons sweeping over sensitive military installations and substations. Weird, right? So now, celebrating Trump's 100 days in office, while everyone else praises rightly Trump's accomplishments in bringing back American manufacturing, plummeting crime and illegal immigration, all good things. Remember this overlooked but vitally important accomplishment. Trump did not forget the importance of our electric grid. Within the first 100 days of returning to the White House, Trump signed an executive order directing the Energy Secretary, Doug Burgum, to secure our grid. Trump understands the importance of this issue, and he made sure that it was emphasized in his first 100 days. All good things. Coming up, House tax writers are close to wrapping up a massive budget bill. Congressman Josh Burkeen is here to discuss.
They say America doesn't make things like it used to. Well, say that to Linda, or Maurice, or Jep, or Whitney. At Allegiance Flag Supply, we do things not because they're easy, but because they're right. Every stitch, every stripe, every star, made by Americans, for the America you believe in. Visit showallegiance.com to get your high-quality American flag today. That's showallegiance.com.
HomeAglow just cleaned my entire house for $19. Seriously, $19. They showed up right on time, did my dishes, my laundry, they even cleaned my windows. You just pick a date, pick a cleaner, and enjoy a spotless house for $19. I love using Home Aglow, and I think you will too.
I can feel the winds of change.
If you or a loved one has mesothelioma or any other asbestos-related cancer, call now. Asbestos manufacturers sold deadly asbestos materials to thousands of companies, putting workers at risk. An estimated $30 billion in court-ordered trusts have been set aside to pay out claims to asbestos victims. You may be entitled to a portion of these funds and receive compensation without filing a lawsuit or ever going to court.
For your free legal consultation, call 800-217-8145. That's 800-217-8145. I'm a non-attorney spokesperson.
If you don't have a good dental plan, or if your employer doesn't offer dental benefits, this is the deal you're looking for. Get the Carefree Dental Card, and for just $15.95 a month, you can see the dentist anytime and pay a whole lot less.
On my first visit, I saved $650.
Call the number on your screen and request your Carefree Dental Card free. See for yourself why Carefree is the best deal in dental.
Call 1-800-481-1778 to get your Carefree Dental Card and free plan information.
House Republicans are nearing completion for the tax policies for their sweeping mega bill, but final details hinge on spending cuts from the Energy and Commerce and Agriculture committees. The Ag Committee, tasked with overhauling food stamps, may delay its markup until mid-May. Ways and Means has authority to propose $4.5 trillion in tax cuts, contingent on $2 trillion in spending cuts elsewhere. Internal debates continue over Medicaid changes and boosting the state and local tax deductions. GOP leaders await President Trump's final approval with concerns that a late-stage objection could derail the legislation's broader border, energy, and defense components. We're now joined by Congressman Josh Burkeen. And my question to you, Congressman, is at this stage in the conversation and the debate over this bill, where are we and what do you see surviving after the dust settles?
Well, I want to thank the speaker. You know, it was about a week and a half ago. He stood before the cameras along with Senator Thune and made it very plain that the House resolution that we sent over in terms of what the House position was with the blueprint, that would be maintained at the $1.5 trillion floor. And then, as you rightly point out, as we, as ENC, or Ways and Means rather, does more in implementing the things that President Trump has talked about doing, certain tax provisions, changes, not just extension of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, that there would be additional savings that would be found through these other committees. I'm on Homeland Security Committee. I just walked out of the markup. You know, all of this is going to be around the premise of, yes, we're going to extend the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, but we've got some things that we're going to have to invest in. Relative to the chaos at the border, the Homeland Security Committee is right now marking up a measure that would ensure that there's 700 miles of physical barriers.
Congressman, I think that most of us would agree that the landscape in which Congress is talking about tax cuts and talking about trimming has never really happened with the shadow of Doge over it. And I say shadow in a good way. Doge has really exposed how government has misspent taxpayer dollars. How has Doge affected the way that you and your colleagues talk about wasteful spending, how you talk about these kinds of bills? Has it been easier or harder for you?
Well, my hope is it's injected more courage, a spinal transplant, if you may, among members. And I ran under the premise of seeing the chasm between our revenue and our outlays, the annual deficits that have led us to this $36 trillion debt. I actually got elected talking about going to Washington, D.C. to reform spending. But I had someone who paved a way in the 2nd Congressional District of Oklahoma. I worked for and represent the same constituency as former U.S. Senator, former Congressman Tom Coburn. So this message, Oklahomans have been hearing someone talk about this problem for 20 and 30 years. That's not the case across the country, right? So many members of Congress run under promising more government spending, the free candy. And so I understand that there's a lot of constituencies that are going to have to connect the dots between the 20% devaluation of their currency, because the basket of goods costing that much more compared to January of 2020. And that as we monetize our debt, as we spend beyond our means, and we continue to downplay our currency, what that's doing, driving inflation. And as I would tell my constituency and hope the American people are fully understanding this, and Doge is talking about this, thanks to the leadership of Elon, is this excess spending is inflationary. And every time we're spending beyond our means, we're either taxing ourselves directly or indirectly through the hidden tax of inflation.
Well, you say that you ran on this premise, and my question to you then is, what surprised you once you got into office as someone who was on the outside saying, hey, this is a problem, our spending needs to be investigated? What surprised you once you got behind the scenes and you were able to actually see how it worked? Were there as many disparities between kind of the reality of what people want and how it actually works?
Yeah, look, waste has a constituency, right? Somebody's ox is going to get gored when you talk about cutting spending, but the responsible lawmaker is the one who is for the benefit of the many. And if we can tackle the discretionary spending, mandatory spending, all this chasm, this deficit spending that's driving inflation, the most effectual lawmaker is not the one who's going to be bringing home the most back to their congressional district. The most effectual lawmaker is the one who's stabilizing the dollar within the wallet of the families they represent. And what Doge, what X, what this grassroots movement is doing is people are becoming informed. So many years, we just, everybody, I've gone from public life back into public life. And, when I'm running my little dirt works business in Oklahoma, it's all I could do to just function throughout the day, make sure my customers were happy, and then come home and spend time with the family. Most people don't have time to dive in and understand the intricacies of our debt and deficit spending. And a well-informed citizenry is dependent upon the communication coming from their members of Congress. And Doge is creating that opportunity now, not just for the Oklahoma 2nd Congressional District, but everyone is having to have a hard conversation. I'm grateful for a president who has kept, and I've said this to him in my time at the White House, I'm grateful to him for keeping his foot on the gas, because we are headed towards a sovereign debt crisis somewhere in the future, or hyperinflation. And my hope is we will do the hard things now to bless posterity.
Well, there are concerns that President Trump may have some last-minute objections about this bill regarding Medicaid reforms. Where do you think we stand there?
Well, my hope is that people understand. I'm talking again, politics is usually downstream of culture, and this is part of the information gathering. People need to understand where Medicaid has transitioned from its inception in 1965 under the Lyndon B. Johnson administration. Originally intended for the blind, the aged, the disabled, the pregnant, nursing mother, and the impoverished. What we find now is, if you look at a Paragon graph, it shows you that now we have more people on Medicaid rolls above the poverty line than below it. That's point number one. And then I'll give you another little interesting stat. Since 2012, because of Obamacare, the expansion of Medicaid went from being about the people, those traditional population I just named, and we have grown the Medicaid enrollment list 60% since 2012, yet the general population in America since 2012 has only grown 6%. We have an explosion of people on the Medicaid rolls that aren't the blind, that aren't the disabled, that aren't the pregnant, the nursing mother, the disabled. They're able-bodied individuals, able-bodied, and the FGA says that 6 out of 10, as they scrub 23 different states, looking at 20 million of these individuals out of the 30 million that are able-bodied, only 6 out of 10 of them didn't have any reportable earned income. That is a
Wow.
astounding statistic.
We spoke last time you were on the show. We talked about the food stamp epidemic that we have in the United States, how people who don't necessarily need to be on food stamps are on food stamps in record numbers. That said, it's counterbalanced by some otherwise encouraging news on the economic front. In March 2025, the U.S. economy added 228,000 jobs, far exceeding expectations. Strong growth was showing in transportation, retail, construction sectors. Businesses are accelerating hiring ahead of new tariffs. With this surge in job growth and rising wages in key sectors, how do you see this momentum influencing the GOP's push for tax cuts and spending reforms? Does it help, or is it neutralized by the sentiment around tariffs right now?
Look, the best anti-poverty program is a job, right? And so as we talk about social programming and just job growth and how that all is in tandem, something else that people need to look at, in 94, when you had Bill Clinton working with Republicans, Bill Clinton, the Democrat, working with Newt Gingrich, and many of the Contract with America, the just enthusiasm around reforms, what you saw was the poverty level going from the historic norms of 14% driving towards 10%. That also happened in the last Trump administration, where it went from the 14% average poverty rate down to the 10%. Now talk about the job element. Under the Biden administration, the last year or two of Biden's administration, the supermajority of all job growth was government jobs. And as you just referenced, under the Trump administration, the supermajority of all job growth is in the free market. And what made America flourish generations after generations until we got into this precipice in the last 20 and 30 and 40 years since the Great Society began by LBJ is what we've started seeing is we are headed towards a country where capitalism is being set aside for government program preference. And that is a long-term detriment to the fabric of this country, to work ethic, to the numbers in our workforce. And I'm so grateful for an administration that's reversing that.
Congressman, it's a pleasure to have you on. Before I let you go, as you know, 100 days of Trump is today. What do you think is the most important accomplishment as of right now under Donald Trump's second term?
Yeah, look, the guy is so busy you can't keep up with him. That's what's amazing about it. I often wonder, how does he handle his schedule? Because he's doing so many things. He's always, waking up with the newest news cycle, something else that's a great idea or something he's executed upon. And this has been truly an exciting 100 days. And I'm grateful for someone that is not just content to occupy a position, but is actually about doing the American people's business.
It's a very refreshing thing, I must say. Congressman, thank you very much for making the time, as always.
Thanks, God bless.
God bless. Stay tuned. We're joining another congressman nearby out of Texas, Congressman Brandon Gill. He sums up President Trump's first 100 days in a viral video recently. We'll take a look. We'll be right back.
Tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.
Did you know that criminals can steal your home without you even knowing?
Nobody thinks that I can take their house. Nobody thinks that.
Criminals forge your signature on one document, transfer your title out of your name, take out loans using your equity.
3 months later, you start getting foreclosure notices and you realize you've got 4 mortgages on your house that you didn't even know existed.
Leaving you with a financial and legal nightmare. Find out if you're already a victim at HomeTitleLock.com.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. If you or someone you know were injured in an accident that was not your fault, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to tell you how much your case is potentially worth. So, Tom, tell the viewers watching at home who should call in right now.
Well, Gina, anyone who's been injured in an accident that was not your fault should give us a call right now. We have live agents available to answer any questions you have. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth.
Thanks, Tom. You heard it, folks. Call now.
In a recent video, Congressman Brandon Gill celebrated President Trump's achievements during his first 100 days in office, highlighting significant accomplishments such as the implementation of tax cuts, deregulation efforts, and the appointment of conservative judges.
Hi, this is Congressman Brandon Gill. I'm here in Washington, D.C. We're on our way to Media Row to celebrate President Trump's many successes in the first 100 days of his administration. Unleashing our energy, we're about to cut taxes massively, deporting illegal aliens and securing the border and putting the American people first. This is exactly what the American people elected him to do.
The Texas congressman concluded by expressing optimism about the country's direction under Trump's leadership and reaffirmed his support for the administration's agenda. Joining us now is Congressman Brandon Gill himself. Congressman, what I find remarkable is the speed at which lawmakers now will be able to just, share their instantaneous reactions and their insights using social media as your team does so well. Talk about the first 100 days. Where do you think we're going from here?
Chanel, thanks for having me on. The first 100 days have been so fast paced. We've been working at a breakneck speed, and it's all because of President Trump and the White House setting the tone for everybody else in Washington. You can see everything that he's been able to do in record time, securing the border, something that we've been told we needed new legislation. We needed new bills to get the border secure. We didn't need any of that. We just needed a president who is going to go to Washington and enforce our laws and put the American people first. You can see what he's doing on the deportation front. The American people elected President Trump to protect them from foreign enemies who were coming across our border illegally. He's doing that. We're deporting illegal aliens. We're doing it quickly, and we're only just getting started. You can see what the president is doing, deregulating our energy sector, where the left intentionally hamstrung domestic energy production so that we could buy from hostile foreign nations. He's fighting back against the wokeness. He's fighting back against DEI. He's doing everything the American people sent him here to do.
Well, not only that, Congressman, earlier in the show, in my monologue, I highlighted the fact that the Democrats had worked, it was almost like they did this on purpose. They weakened our energy grid safety and our security. And Trump had worked in his first term and now in his second term to secure our energy grid on top of securing our energy production. And that's also something that I think is going to be underplayed. People are not going to talk about it very much, but it's a huge, huge move, especially for constituents out of Texas, for example, where Texas operates on its own grid, right? So talking about little topics like that, I think, are going to be very important as we go forward and we look back on the 100 days of Trump without repeating some of the old talking points that everyone else is talking about.
That's right. Fossil fuels work. We can drill oil in the United States right here, right now. We can do it in Texas, and that's what we're moving back towards under President Trump. The thing to remember, and it's easy to lose it as we're seeing so many victories from President Trump, is that the chaos under 4 years of Joe Biden was all intentional. It was all the result of deliberate policy decisions that administration made, whether it was open borders and the Democrats' attempt to flood our country with millions of people that they believed would be future perpetual Democrat voters in an attempt to systematically rig our elections, no matter what the costs are, no matter how many of our children die of fentanyl, no matter how much our working class wages are suppressed, no matter how much crime and murders and rapes happen to American citizens because of their open border policies. We see it across the board. And finally, we have a president who is looking out for our people, for American citizens, the people who elected officials to begin with. That's what they've been begging for, and that's exactly what President Trump is doing. This is so refreshing to see. The other thing that's great to see is the speed. President Trump had a phenomenal first term. He It was busy. He got a lot done. He made a lot of progress on the border and other issues and energy as well. But the speed and the aggressiveness that the administration is putting forward right now to carry out his agenda is so refreshing, and it's exactly what the American people want.
Now, and Doge being a force inside the halls of Congress where you are, playing a very pivotal role amongst your colleagues, both on the House and the Senate side, is such an incredible addition to the whole legislative process. And once people have tasted that kind of transparency, Congressman, it feels like we're not going back. Even with Elon Musk leaving Doge once he set up, I don't see us going back to an older way of doing all of this anytime soon.
Right. You know, Republicans have talked for decades about slashing waste, fraud, and abuse throughout our federal government. We've talked about our debt being unsustainable, our deficit now at about $2 trillion every single year. And President Trump is doing something about it. And I'll give you one example with Doge is the funding of NPR and PBS. This also is something that conservatives have been begging for years and years. Administration after administration, including Republicans, have talked about we need to stop funding left-wing propaganda outlets that hate us and hate conservatives and hate Christians. Well, a few weeks ago, we had a hearing on that with the Doge subcommittee, which I sit on, and we got to question the head of NPR, Catherine Marr, and the head of PBS, and ask them, where is our money actually going? I got to ask the head of NPR about some of the radical, crazy, outlandish things that she had tweeted in the past, things about how America was built on white supremacy, was addicted to white supremacy, about how we need reparations in this country, which, by the way, would cost trillions of dollars. We put them on the spot, and now we're hearing from the White House that we are going to be getting in the next couple weeks, hopefully soon, a rescission bill that will finally strip out their funding. Wow. This is a major win for Republicans, and again, it is thanks to President Trump for taking seriously all of the things that conservatives want done here in Washington.
Congressman, I'm curious, and maybe this is a conversation reserved for legal scholars, but NPR, PBS, they receive, what, $1.1 billion of taxpayer dollars. There are cases in past where this would be considered compelled speech, where we, the taxpayer, being forced to pay for NPR and PBS's opinions is a form of compelled speech that violates our First Amendment rights. Have you heard that argument being made?
I think that that's a valid argument to make. They get about $530 million every year, but we fund them 2 years in advance, ostensibly, to make sure that the media process at those institutions are not politicized. But we know the truth. We know, of course, that they're spewing left-wing hate against conservatives every single day, and we're paying for it. And we're sick of funding this kind of nonsense. That's why we're finally cutting this out. But what the beauty of this is that we can do this without Democrat support. You know, typically whenever you pass a law in Washington, you require a majority in the House, and then you have to have 60 votes in the Senate. The beauty of a rescission bill that comes from the White House is that you only need 50 votes. We can do it with a simple majority in the Senate, meaning we don't need Democrats. And that is, again, thanks to President Trump's leadership.
Wow, I think that's a very important point. And possibly motivation for the White House and the very many smart advisors behind the scenes to keep going, keep pushing some ideas out there to you guys. Congressman, a pleasure. Thank you very much for making the time. Coming up, chilling facts about the Butler assassination attempt may warrant a new investigation. Mike Benz weighs in. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Susan Lucci. You may know me from my many years on television. I never thought about heart disease until I had my own heart event. I felt this slight pressure on my chest, just slight. I thought, oh, it's nothing, it'll go away. I didn't get it. I did not get it. A few days later, while shopping at a boutique, that pressure returned, much stronger. It felt like an elephant pressing on my chest. I had a 90% blockage in my main artery and a 75% blockage in the adjacent artery. I was rushed into surgery where I received 2 stents in my arteries. Stents developed through research funded by the American Heart Association. Those stents saved my life. That's why I'm in front of you today, asking you to join me in supporting the American Heart Association by becoming a monthly donor. Call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough. Get the next person trained in CPR, the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. I'm so grateful to the American Heart Association. Their research helped save my life. I can enjoy life with my children, my grandchildren, and my friends. Heart disease is America's #1 killer, and your support now can help save your life or the life of someone you love. Give $19 a month with your credit card, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can wear to show that you are helping save lives. Please, listen to your heart. The only reason I'm here today is because I did. So please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now. Join me as a monthly donor today and help save even more lives. Thank you.
Well, we return to a story that I have argued is one of the biggest of our lifetimes, and no one really has answers to some very basic questions about it. A few keep asking questions. A recent Revolver News article raises serious concerns about the July 2024 assassination attempt on Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. The piece highlights numerous anomalies that are outstanding, including the assailant's professionally cleaned home, devoid of personal items, a complete lack of online presence, and his appearance in a BlackRock commercial. Now, these are all questions we've had for a very long time, but it seems like no one's answering them. Critics like Joe Rogan, Elon Musk have pointed out these irregularities, and they've emphasized the need for a thorough and transparent investigation. Additional questions arise from the presence of 5 phones, the immediate cremation of the body, and alleged travel patterns linked to FBI offices. The article suggests that these unresolved issues contribute to growing public distrust in federal institutions. And might I add, especially when you have people who are in positions of power, they want answers to all of this, and even they can't get the answers or get to the bottom of it. At least that's what it feels like. Joining us now to react, Mike Benz, Executive Director of the Foundation for Freedom Online, and also an astute mind who continues to ask questions like this on deeper levels. Why do we still not know so little about this situation right now? Why do you think that is?
Well, there are many mysteries in the Justice Department, and they're usually shrouded under what's called an ongoing investigation, which allows essentially the feds to jump on the grenade of evidence and have it simply drag and drag. But in this case, the suspect is dead, and I think in such a case, it is appropriate to fill the American people in on an ongoing basis about the extent of the discoveries. You know, as you mentioned, the sheer volume of phones, the fact that he was sending text messages literally while he was up on the roof. There are pictures of him with his cell phone while he's effectively, in almost in shooter position. And that obviously begs the question of who the heck was he talking to? I doubt he was checking the sports score. And
well, some people say he was checking the wind or something for his shot. That was one theory. But again, we're not sure. And why would you keep that hidden at this point? If we know one way or the other what he was doing on his phone moments before he took a shot at Donald Trump, why would you keep that hidden at this point in time?
Well, the issue is we just went through this whole song and dance during the January 6th pipe bomber incident, which, of course, is its own rabbit hole.
Which we'll get to, by the way.
Yes. But the January 6th pipe bomber literally took out his phone and made phone calls just minutes before he went to the DNC building where the device was planted. We saw the FBI tape of that. Then we saw the January 6th pipe bomber sit down on the park bench and take out his cell phone and appear to send text messages, and then walk around and then plant the device. And then there was a whole saga where the FBI special agent in charge of the DC field office came out and said that the cell phone data had been corrupted. And then when I believe Congress asked the cell phone companies, they said, actually, the files were, there was uncorrupted when we sent it to them. And so, the real question in my mind is, given that the FBI is turned over and Cash is in there and Pam Bondi is at the Justice Department, what could the holdup be? Is it simply that, it's still very early? We are just now 100 days into the Trump admin. They have to inherit these files. They have to get them from all the different agencies who've collected them. There's a firing process for folks who are uncooperative. They need to root out who's being uncooperative. It may be reasonable to expect it to take closer to 6 months to be able to get updates on this than just a handful. But time is ticking at this point, and I have the same questions you have.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the J6 bomber issue. Our friend Kyle Seraphin on X, I think he was being very sarcastic when he said this, but he says that the FBI claims it will reveal the identity of the January 5th pipe bomber, but only after another 6 to 8 months, citing the need for an airtight investigation. I have yet to ask him. I'm not sure if he's actually being serious or he's being sarcastic. Knowing him, he's kind of doing both. Is it likely that the FBI does, at this point, know who the suspect is? And why are they keeping it under, close investigation still at this moment? Because I know you've done a lot of homework on this.
Yeah.
You've done stop motion investigation on the videos. Like, where do you stand on this at this point?
Well, Kyle's an interesting, either source or jokester in this situation, because I believe Kyle has talked about how while he was at the FBI, there was a lead with all the way down to, I believe there was a license plate number for someone who helped they stopped the investigation when they got to the guy's Metro card. I think they had tracked the person on video to the DC Metro stop. And there was something about an identifying car at that point. And, then the case went cold. And I believe, if I'm telling it correctly, is the story Kyle told it from inside the FBI was that it was effectively stopped from the top down in terms of the pipe bomber investigation. But the fact is, they're sitting on something like 39,000 video files. The guy took off his glasses at one point, as I showed on video, just minutes before he went and planted the pipe bomb. In terms of the evidence collected, this guy, we're told, made 2 handmade devices that didn't even work. So in terms of it being an amateur job, it is very, very hard to elude modern criminal forensics. Right.
Especially at a place like DC, where just everything's wired. You say 39,000 video clips. I mean, that's a lot of video.
Right.
And DC, as we know, is locked down. We've got angles of DC from every angle you'd want.
Yeah, the fact that we don't have not only the name, we don't have the race, the gender, the in age range. I mean, literally nothing. Basically doing a 90-minute touchdown dance straight in the face of the national security apparatus on foot. Not even that late at night. It was 7:45 at night. And I mean, the mail bomber who apparently sent these pipe bombs to Nancy Pelosi and whatnot, they were caught with a single hair follicle on one of the devices. And this person was carrying around 2 devices in a backpack that made at home. You need incredibly delicate care to construct a pipe bomb without leaving any skin cells or hair follicles on it. As I showed, it looks like the tapes were tampered with to blot out the eyes of the irises of the pipe bomber as he approaches the security camera at the DNC headquarters, because, and I believe that was done because if this person had a criminal record or if this person was a member of the military, this person's eyes would be in a database and you could simply zoom in to be able to do a match. So they nuked it down to 1 frame per second. But all of this, there should be a chain of custody at the FBI. And frankly, I mean, that is what should be made public immediately. Here's what we know.
So from the perspective, I was just going to say, but from the perspective of the average American, especially one who's a fan of this administration, there is a lot of excitement that Kash Patel is director of the FBI. And we know for a fact that Kash, I mean, from both our personal friendships and our professional knowledge of what he has said, he has had a burr up his sleeve about the J6 scenario. He has been absolutely on fire about uncovering Pelosi's potential role in it. He's been on fire about uncovering every portion of it. And so the average American, Mike, is looking at this story saying, well, if Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, is super excited about exposing all of this, and we still don't have answers after 100 days of him being, basically enabled to do all of this, what is going on? Is the FBI just that compartmentalized and the bureaucracy that strong?
When COVID hit, Trump did a press conference every single day with updates about what was known about the virus, what steps the government was taking, what was being funded, and it was a open volley at the president and his top advisors every single day, so that we knew, even amidst the uncertainty of a brand new pandemic, that we could talk to the president and hear our questions answered, even if he didn't know all the answers. And I actually think, Chanel, that is an incredible idea, that there should be a transparency initiative. Frankly, there should be simply a transparency spokesperson who is out there, let's just say once a week, to answer questions about the state of the January 6th event. You can just delegate it. This person is the transparency spokesperson. We know that they are under a executive order to fulfill the end of weaponization of intelligence agencies inward. That was a day one EO that was signed by the president. You can just set up this transparency spokesperson under that EO if you want, but basically give us 1 day a week for the next 6 months so that we can ask our questions about January 6th. We can ask our questions about the Whitmer Fednapping or whatever investigations are still ongoing or being revisited about Russiagate and about Crossfire Hurricane. Give us a spokesperson we can talk to so that the shroud does not grow from this point forward, because we don't even have a timeline at this point. And I believe we've got the best leadership we can have at FBI. But at this point, we need to be able to ask questions.
Mike Benz, I hereby nominate you to be the transparency czar. And I'm sure we could find a very good spokesperson to accompany you in that role. I hope some smart people listen to that idea. Good
Well,
to
if
see
they
you,
set
as
one
always,
up,
my friend.
I will hound them. I will hound them to the ends of the earth. Okay, thank you, Chanel.
See you. Coming up, Bradley Devlin takes a spin on headline roulette. You'll want to see the headlines we have lined up. We'll be right back.
If you struggle to keep up with conversations, if you have trouble hearing the TV or radio, Nano Hearing Aids wants to help you hear better. Because when you hear better, you're actually going to feel better and live a happier, even healthier life. And Nano Hearing Aids is offering not one, but two very special, possibly once-in-a-lifetime offers. Special offer number one: when you buy any Nano OTC hearing aid, Nano will give you a pair of personal sound amplifiers, absolutely free. If you have a little trouble hearing but don't need a hearing aid, these are great. Special offer too. Today, Nano is offering an amazing deal on their CIC Recharge OTC hearing aids. Today, you can order a full pair of completely in-canal Recharge OTC hearing aids for only $297. Plus, Nano offers great financing. Payments from only $26.81 a month, 88 cents a day. But supplies are limited, so call now.
1-800-231-6205. 1-800-231-6205.
They say America doesn't make things like they used to. We'll say that to Linda, or Maurice, or Jeb, or Whitney. At Allegiance Flag Supply, we do things not because they're easy, but because they're right. Every stitch, every stripe, every star, made by Americans for the America you believe in. Visit showallegiance.com to order your high-quality American flag today. That's showallegiance.com.
I'm calling in regards about my mother, and I'm here, and I just want to thank you because it saved my mother's life yesterday. And I'd like to know the names of the people that came in and saved her. It's a wonderful thing. Thank you.
With Life Alert, one touch of a button can get you help fast.
For a free Life Alert brochure, call 1-800-560-0489. 1-800-560-0489.
It's time now to take a spin with Headline Roulette. These are the week's most compelling, random, and interesting headlines. We look high and low to bring the country's top minds to help decipher the trees from the forest. Today's headline dealer is politics editor at the Daily Signal, Bradley Devlin. Bradley, are you ready?
We are ready to go.
All right, let's roll. Headline number one, Trump steams ahead on these campaign promises as he reaches 100 days in office. Of the list, what do you say is the most important or entertaining or insightful one?
I think President Trump has delivered on his number one campaign promise, which is to close the southern border. As he said in his joint address to Congress, we didn't need new laws, we only needed a new president. Border crossings down 95%, removals up like crazy, over 138,000 illegal migrants removed from the country in the first 100 days. Of course, an infusion of cash from Congress in budget reconciliation is going to help the Trump administration increase that number, which is what they need to do if they want to actually remove the illegal aliens let into the country by Joe Biden. And then on top of that, 32,000 arrests in the interior of the country, over 75% of those actually violent criminals. So Trump is continuing to deliver on this despite what the judiciary is trying to do and despite delays from Republicans in Congress as they work out the tax portion of the budget reconciliation package. We'll see how this continues. I think that the number of deportations is only going to increase. And what have you seen in that period of time? Well, you've seen some manufacturing jobs come back, and you've seen an increase in real wages in the lower end of the socioeconomic spectrum. That is huge because all of the real wage growth that we saw during the Biden administration was actually being swallowed up by foreign workers. Real wages for American workers had stagnated. President Trump is trying to revitalize that. Of course, immigration and energy, the two best ways to make your dollar go a little bit farther here.
You know, what I love about watching how President Trump deals with his adversaries and kind of just operates, he's really good at drawing a line and setting the game board so that the line is drawn and whoever's watching has to pick a side. And the side that is Trump's side is framed in a way that it's like, oh, it's border security versus MS-13. And the Democrats are being forced to pick MS-13. They're being forced to say, we want China to keep imposing these unfair tariffs on us. But it's all about framing that debate and drawing that line. And that's, to me, a remarkable thing that I think that Trump is teaching other world leaders. You know, this is how you frame the debate. Frame the debate so that your adversaries are forced to take a horrible position. And I think he's done that quite well in the first 100 days. Headline number 2. Inside the fight to confirm Kash Patel as FBI director. What was that fight? What was going on?
Yeah, this was an interview that I had with Kash Patel's Sherpa, Clint Brown. Clint Brown is a veteran of the Senate and knows how that place operates. If you ever try to climb Mount Everest, you'll be hooked up with a Sherpa. It's a colloquial term for a mountain guide. Right. And if you ever want to climb Capitol Hill and become a member of the president's cabinet, you're going to have to make that steep climb up Capitol Hill. This was how, you know, in the early days, everyone thought it was going to be impossible to get Kash Patel across the finish line. The way this ended, 51-49 in favor. Kash Patel is the director of the FBI. How did he win over senators in those backroom meetings, in those hearings? Well, he had a really, really simple pitch, which was first, radical transparency for the members of Congress who had been rejected, run over by FBI Director Wray. They have an oversight function. They would ask for information, and they were shown the door at the FBI. They weren't allowed to know what was going on at Quantico. Kash Patel, as we've seen, is willing to deliver on that with the declassification effort, etc. The second element of his pitch was, we're going to let good cops be good cops. And I think we've seen a lot of really high-profile arrests thus far in the first 100 days of this administration. Rising Biden crime was one of the main drivers of the mandate victory for Republicans, not only at the presidential level, but also securing the House of Representatives, securing the Senate for at least another 2 years. Crime is something that affects everybody in Congress. And when there are stories of immigrant crime or stories of violent crime on the rise, that is something that endangers everyone's political future, which is much less important than the actual public safety. So Kash Patel looking to restore that. I think he'll be successful.
Wow. No, that radical transparency idea, obviously you have antsy fans on the sideline saying he's not moving fast enough, we're not seeing enough arrests. And, you know, keep in mind, the FBI is a gigantic place. That said, that radical transparency idea is very interesting because remember Kash Patel, and I know you covered this back in the day, but Kash Patel, when he was working with Devin Nunes on the House side, he saw firsthand what it was like to have to work against a bureaucracy that was hell-bent on keeping as many cards to the chest as possible, even when Congress came knocking. So it's a much more powerful message coming from Kash to promise this, because he knows what it was like to
silent film, The Birth of a Nation. With its white robes and cross burnings, the Klan adhered to a nativist agenda that opposed anything and anyone that didn't fit into their white Protestant ideal, such as blacks, Catholics, Jews, and newly arrived Southern and Eastern European immigrants. The Klan of the 1920s was also very visible in the community, with the high watermark of the organization being its march in Washington, D.C. in the summer of 1925. Known as a conclave, an estimated 50,000 Klansmen and their families converged on the city for 2 days of very public demonstration. On the 8th of August, upwards of half the attendees participated in a march through the streets of the capital wearing their full regalia, but with their faces on show rather than hidden beneath pointed hoods at the behest of the city's authorities. Some of the marchers formed well-drilled shapes that were visible from above, Christian crosses and moving white Ks, that were witnessed by thousands of spectators who had come to watch the parade or demonstrate against the presence of the Klan in the capital. In silent film,
this was Trumptastic. Yeah, I'm about to hit y'all over the head with another banger. Turn up Patriots, yeah, y'all gonna love this one. Yeah. Yeah. I hit him with a 12 gauge. Yeah, that's the sound of freedom. Hit him with a 12 gauge. Yeah, that's the sound of freedom. Red, white, and blue. Hell yeah, that's the sound of freedom. Mr. Trumptastic, yeah, yeah. I just had to meet him. Slave on the drip. Hell yeah, I just had to beat him. Feel like Carlos Slim when I'm counting up to Dracula. Yeah. I'm 7 seas, but I'm headed out to Africa. Okay. Black ass Trumper, same color as the Acura. Trump 2024, I'm whipping up a miracle. Holy Jesus Christ, wall to wall, walls of Jericho. Turtle Man Mitch, I'm moving slower down, I underlay it down. Moving fast, I'm in the future, that's an understatement. Pedophile Joe saw his ass into another basement. Horror movie blockbuster, flexing on the big screen. Just dropped the cue, but the Fed's been on Telegram. Son of Saint Nick, I'm jumping off the Christmas tree. Paul Bunyan flow, now I'm cutting down your Christmas tree. January 6th, Deep State try to sentence me. January 5th, Deep State try to hinder me. Election time lady, and I feel like John Kennedy. Yeah, white hoodie hanging with my enemies. Hyperion Picasso when I'm drawing out your energy. Blood pumping, Kool-Aid beat your chest like the heart attack. Outer space dripper, beam 'em up with a Mars attack. Shotgun Billy, move the scope, I can part his back. Sub-zero flow, now I'm pulling out your cardio. Magic mushroom, same color.
Aided by bureaucracy.
Absolutely. It gives him a large amount of credibility with people because he knows how difficult it is to extract just a little bit of information, right, from these agencies. And once you have that little bit of information, you realize
and these agencies
that
work for them. They work for us.
The entirety of Russia was a house of cards, and they pulled one card from the bottom, and it all came tumbling down, leak after leak after leak of how corrupt this whole system actually was, how it was rigged against the president. We don't want a repeat of that if we want to restore the rule of law in this country, if we want to restore law and order. Right. And I think radical transparency moves us in the right direction. Have we gotten everything that we wanted yet? No, but this is a deep process with a lot of people probably weaponizing incompetence against the reforms that the Trump administration is trying to implement. The last thing on this is Kash Patel, in that interview with Clint Brown, he's already moved forward with a massive reorganization of the highest levels of the FBI. So the knock-on effects of that are going to be huge, and he's done it without a lot of fanfare. We'll see how these reorganizations produce results for the administration moving forward.
We shall see. I hope so. Headline number 3, vulnerable House Dem rakes in thousands of dollars from Pelosi despite past criticism. I take it past criticism is putting it mildly.
Yeah, putting it mildly for sure. Let's just make this clear. When we enter the 2026 midterms, do not be fooled by Democratic candidates in lean red or purplish districts that say, actually, I'm going to be a voice of reason in the Democratic Party. I am going to make sure that Democrats are held to account for turning their back on the working class. I am going to be everything to everyone. Yeah, you are going to be everything to everyone, and you're going to be Nancy Pelosi's doormat. That's what you're going to end up being, because at the end of the day, the Democratic apparatus is set up like, I don't know, a bunch of gators in a big pond. Everyone's going to get their chunk of flesh at some point. And so they're going to take pieces out of these people, whereas the Republican Party is much more decentralized on this front, right? This was the whole thing with USAID. We saw that this was taxpayer dollars propping up this massive liberal NGO apparatus, everyone exchanging dollars. The money keeps on flowing. Well, what happens when you turn off that spigot? People get a little nervous. And so even these moderate Democrats know that the apparatus is based on a retail politics like this. I don't know. It smells like corruption in the Democratic Party.
It has for a long time, and I think that's why they lost for amongst other hosts of reasons. Bradley Devlin, always a pleasure. Thank you very much. Great headlines.
Thanks for having me.
Remember to download the OAN Live app on your TV and your favorite streaming devices. You can also catch any Fine Point episodes you may have missed right there in the app with our video on demand feature. Spread the word. I leave you with this. One man practicing sportsmanship is far better than 100 teaching it. Good night, Godspeed. Until tomorrow.
Good evening and welcome to Tuesday's edition of Real America with Dan Ball. Greatly appreciate you tuning in tonight, folks. So, today's a very special day. Marks a major milestone for President Donald J. Trump, who has now officially completed 100 days in office. Trump setting record pace with that time. Promises made, promises kept. And there are a lot of folks on the left and the mainstream media that are not liking it. Among his many accomplishments, the immediate crackdown of illegal immigration and the implementation of one of the largest scale deportations ever. On day one, Trump signed 10 executive orders focusing on the foreign invaders, crime, guns, gangbangers, and fentanyl. He's also leveling the playing field when it comes to the economy and trade by, yes, imposing huge tariffs on pretty much everybody that trades with the United States of America. Trump's also working to make America energy independent again, removing the U.S. from the ridiculous Paris Climate Accords, eliminating the electrical vehicle mandate put in by JoJo, opening massive areas up in Alaska for fossil fuel development, and easing restrictions on clean coal. It's clean. He's playing global peacemaker, trying to end two wars at the same time, the one between Russia and Ukraine, and of course the conflict in the Middle East between Israel and Hamas. And of course, there's the establishment of the Department of Government Efficiency. DOGE, headed up by Elon, where they are weeding out the federal waste, fraud, and abuse. House Speaker Mike Johnson weighing in on President Trump's first 100 days, calling him the most consequential leader of the 21st century.
100 days ago, President Trump stood under the Capitol Rotunda and promised to deliver the America First agenda and usher in America's new golden age. From day one, he started doing it, and we've seen nothing but swift and decisive action from the president. It's been 100 days of a secure border, safer communities, strength on the world stage, historic investments in American manufacturing, a return to common sense, and a more efficient, effective government.
Let me tell you, folks, President Trump has no intention of slowing down. Just signed an executive order on Monday to hold sanctuary cities accountable for violating federal law. The order directs the Department of Homeland Security and the DOJ to identify and then publicly list these cities and states within 30 days. It also mandates legal actions against these cities and states, and it seeks to restrict their federal funding if they don't get on board. Follow the damn law. Republicans on the House Judiciary Committee will meet tomorrow to discuss sweeping changes to federal immigration laws. How about you get it in writing for good, so it's not just executive orders, guys? The 116-page bill released Monday by the judiciary includes a new fee structure for immigrants seeking asylum and other methods to achieve legal status. Yeah, make it more affordable. Let's get rid of all the crappy paperwork, streamline it, and then make people follow it. That's it. The bill imposes a $1,000 fee to apply for asylum, plus $550 every 6 months for work permits, $100 every year in the case where it continues to drag on. That's pretty simple stuff. $1,000, $500, $100. Fill it out. Follow it. Come in through a port of entry. What a novel idea. Here now, the sound off about President Trump's first 100 days in. Indiana Congressman Marlon Stutzman back on the program. Marlon, nice to see you again. How you been, sir?
Hey, Dan, great to be with you. It was great to see you and your lovely wife in Indiana last week.
I enjoyed the Hoosier State. We'll get to that in just a second, sir. But let's get to the important business at hand, and that is President Trump's historic 100 days. We have not seen anything like this. I don't think, maybe in our lifetime, yes, but I think you and I were about 5 or 6. And I'm talking about when Reagan had to totally fix the economy and trade and everything else, when Jimmy Carter handed him a you-know-what burger. So in modern time that you and I can remember, President Trump has done more in 100 days than any president we've seen.
It's remarkable, Dan, to see how President Trump returns to the Oval Office and has a plan for so many different pieces that were broken by the Biden administration, starting with the border. I mean, we went from hundreds of thousands of illegal crossings along the southern border to a president who now has it down to hundreds, which again, it just shows you that leadership matters.
Yep.
Now, all of a sudden, we've got, the military is being rejuvenated and back on focus rather than focusing on transgender ideology. We're focusing on actually training men and women to be real warriors and soldiers. And that earns the respect around the world. I was just in Syria last week. And I'll tell you what, Dan, people around the world in countries like Syria love President Trump because they know he's going to do what he says he's going to do. And he's also going to make sure that there's peace, prosperity, and security.
Well, let's be real, Marlon. When America is safe and doing well, the world does better. That's the bottom line. You know, I mean, think about it. If companies are doing great and the individual American citizen is doing great and the government is, well, I won't say doing great because it hasn't done great in a long time. That's why we're 30-some trillion in debt. But when things are humming along, right, we donate more, we give more aid, we help more, we do just things. You know, it's better when America is prospering and safe. It will be better for all the other countries on the planet. Let's talk about, so we got immigration. We got the economy. Got to touch on the tariffs real quick with you and just how that's going, because everybody's losing their ever-loving mind on the left and the mainstream media that, oh my God, Trump's ruining the economy. He doesn't know what he's doing. But this is a long time coming. Marlon, we needed these trade deals renegotiated decades ago, and nobody ever had the cojones to do it.
That's right. No, exactly right. And, I remember throughout the 90s and of course, the early 2000s, we're always talking about free trade. NAFTA, of course, was a big deal. And yes, we all think, okay, free trade is going to be fair trade and it's going to be good for the United States. Well, that's not the case. And a lot of our allies even are ones that are the beneficiaries of the trade policy that we've had for many years. So President Trump is doing the right thing. Is it a little bumpy? Yes, it is. The stock market is up and down. But I'll tell you what, back home when I'm talking to constituents, I'm hearing from manufacturers that are saying we're seeing an increase in production because of the tariffs. We're also seeing an opportunity to compete with countries like China, which obviously always they manipulate their currency. They have terrible environmental policy, terrible labor policy. So now we're leveling the playing field because Trump is willing to have a backbone and stand up and say, you know what, we're going to start looking out for the American labor. We're going to start looking out for the American economy. It's not America. It's not just America first. I mean, this is what I like about Trump's policies. It's America first, but it's not America only, because we can actually have allies that it'll benefit them as well, as long as they play ball and play on a fair level playing field.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So tariffs, economy, immigration down 90-some% year over. Law and order. He's trying to return some of that if some of these liberal states and cities would listen, but he is working on that as well. And getting this DEI crap you mentioned in the military, but just trying to get rid of it everywhere, especially like in education. I know that's big for you, especially Indiana, being a family man, Marlon. That is key. We got to get back to meritocracy. Okay. This all started going downhill with giving kids participation trophies back in the 90s and the whole PC movement. Now we've moved on to, oh, well, because of the color of your skin, you get this. And because you're white, you're an aggressor and you're an oppressor. And this DEI stuff's been horrible for the nation.
Well, Dan, I'm not the biggest guy on the basketball court, so getting beat up down low was good for me. It made me a tougher basketball player. And I wasn't just told, oh, you know what, we're going to open up the lane and let you run down and score. That's not what America's built on. America's built on opportunity. America's built on competition. It's good for all of us. It makes us better. And of course, the left, which just continues to move further left, they're running down to El Salvador to try to get the Maryland man out of prison down there, who is we know where he comes from, what his background is. And but America's coming back. This comeback is truly remarkable. As you mentioned and compared it to Ronald Reagan back in the 80s, I think America. And
it's going to take more than 100 days, Marlon, right? I mean, that's what people need to understand. And you and I's generation, and the ones before us, they had more patience because things were at a slower pace. I think nowadays in 2025, the two younger generations after you and I are so used to, like right now, right? You order it and it's there. Give it to me now. They don't understand. You can't fix all this broke in 100 days. Even the first year, This is going to take a while. Almost out of time, Marlon, but I wanted to say what you brought up at the beginning of the interview was great seeing you. Also, your new attorney general. I had not met Todd Rokita before, so having Todd at the event, we got some pics. Here we go. So this was the Steuben County, Indiana GOP annual Lincoln Day dinner. They invited me to be the main keynote speaker. The AG was actually the MC. I believe, Marlon, you gave the introduction, benediction, and prayer and said a few words. And then we had a packed house, just a bunch of great Hoosiers out eating some good food, some baked goods, way too many desserts, Marlon. But I had a fun time, great time. And it was so nice seeing you in the flesh instead of just back and forth.
Well, you did a remarkable job. You inspired and really, challenged all of us that we can't sit on our laurels. This is a time when we all need to be hands on deck. And it was great to see you and your wife there. And always welcome back anytime.
Thank you, Marlon. Appreciate you. You ever get out this way? I doubt it. To California, maybe we'll get you in studio for an interview. Take care, Marlon.
You bet. Yep. Thank you.
By the way, if you'd like to have me pop out to your Lincoln Day dinner or some event and you're looking for a speaker that will probably excite, arouse, and offend, then shoot me an email, realamerica@oann.com, and we can talk about your event and get me in to be a guest speaker. It was a lot of fun. I love Northeast Indiana. It's a second home. Grew up in Northwest Ohio, but spent my summers a lot over in Indiana. So it was great to see all those Hoosiers. After the break, we're going to continue discussing President Trump's first 100 days in office. We'll speak with a small business owner about those Trump tariffs and how he says they're good for his business and everybody else.
I'm Amy Grant, and I want to talk to you from my heart about the heart. I would have been the last person on the list to say this woman has a problem with her heart. So no, there was nothing about my life that said you have a ticking time bomb in your chest. But I did. I wound up in the office of a cardiologist because I was there with my husband. And at the tail end of that, the cardiologist looked at me and said, "I want to see you." No one was more surprised than I was to learn I was living with a rare heart condition. He said, "Amy, this condition, you'll be fine, and then catastrophic." A few months later, I had open heart surgery that saved my life. And I owe it to the research and life-saving medical breakthroughs developed by the American Heart Association. That's why I'm asking you to join me and become a monthly donor to the American Heart Association. Please call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough, get the next person trained in CPR, and get the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. If this could happen to me, it could happen to anybody. Heart disease is America's #1 killer, but your support can save your life or the life of someone you love. Give $19 a month with your credit card and we'll send you this special t-shirt you can wear to show you're part of a community of monthly donors working to help save more lives like mine. I'm grateful for the American Heart Association. Their research gave me more time to do the things I love with the people I love. So listen to your heart. I'm here today because I did. Please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now to become a monthly donor and help save even more lives. Thank you.
President Trump has secured more investments in the United States of America in 100 days than Joe Biden did in 4 years. President Trump is America's businessman in chief, and that's why these trillions of dollars in investments are flooding to our country.
Amen. White House press secretary there, Caroline Leavitt, flanked by the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, earlier praising President Trump for unleashing economic greatness during his first 100 days of his second presidential term. The White House today touting Trump's ability to secure more than $5 trillion in new U.S.-based investments in just 100 days. Investments that I'm told will create more than 451,000 new jobs as he sets the stage for a new era of American prosperity. Keep hearing about that golden age, the golden era. He's trying to bring it back. According to the Treasury Department, President Trump's tariff revenues reached a record $15 billion this month alone. That's up 105% from a year ago, by the way. The president's senior trade advisor, Peter Navarro, you've seen him on this program, says that tariffs could raise about $600 billion a year, or approximately $6 trillion over the next decade. How about that? This, as the Treasury Secretary is warning China that it's in jeopardy of losing millions and millions of jobs over the tariff war, so they better get in order.
Over time, we will see that the Chinese tariffs are unsustainable for China. I've seen some very large numbers over the past few days that show if these numbers stay on, Chinese could lose 10 million jobs very quickly. And even if there is a drop in the tariffs, that they could lose 5 million jobs. So remember that we are the deficit country. They sell almost 5 times more goods to us than we sell to them. So the onus will be on them to take off these tariffs. They're unsustainable for them.
See, that's where everybody needs to calm down. Okay, there are adults trying to fix not only the current state of our economy, but this overall trade war that's been going on for 30, 40 years, where the good old US of A, the American worker, the business owner, the farmer, the rancher, you name it, has been getting screwed. And you can't, as my dad used to say, you can't unscrew the pooch in like a day or a month or even a year. President Trump is literally trying to undo decades of bad trade deals in the first 100 days. So everybody just pump the brakes, okay? Meantime, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt slamming e-commerce giant Amazon over its plan to display tariff costs along product prices on their platform. Okay, so let me get this right. Jeff and his wife were at Trump's golf course. I know, I saw it with my own 2 eyes, 2 days before the inauguration, kissing the president's ass. Now his company is going to try and make Trump look bad. This is how it works. Amazon officials say the company is committed to keeping prices low for their consumers. That's why, in full transparency, they're going to display the tariff cost next to the original cost. The Trump administration disagreeing, saying the action by Amazon is nothing more than a politically motivated stunt.
This is a hostile and political act by Amazon. Why didn't Amazon do this when the Biden administration hiked inflation to the highest level in 40 years? And I would also add that it's not a surprise because, as Reuters recently wrote, Amazon has partnered with a Chinese propaganda arm.
Hey, Bezos, I got an idea for you. You know what you should do? Since you're going to be a jerk and put the tariff cost next to the price of all Chinese goods, why don't you put a beautiful American flag next to the companies that sell things made in America on Amazon? So then when we, the consumer, go on to buy and we see the increased price for the Chinese crap, maybe we'll choose an American company to buy a similar product. How about you promote American companies, Jeffy? Just saying. The trucking industry, crucial, of course, when it comes to moving everything, goods, right? Services, you name it. President Trump taking action to put America's professional drivers once again first, trying to make them and our roadways even safer. On Monday, Trump signed an executive order mandating that commercial truck drivers, you ready for this? Demonstrate they can speak English. Thank you. God bless you. Now, Mr. President, do it with everything else, like Uber drivers and DoorDash and taxi drivers. Speak English. Anyway, the order reverses a 2016 memorandum issued during the Obama-Biden regime, which removed the requirement to place drivers out of service for English language violations. Of course, it was Obama and Biden that allowed that to go through. Joining us now to weigh in on the moves to make the trucking industry better, greater, safer, but also the tariffs that are affecting small, medium, large businesses and this whole made in America versus the Chinese garbage. He's the co-owner and vice president of JKC Trucking, Mike Kurcharski. back on the program. Mike, I almost butchered that name. It's Kacharski. I got it right this time. Mike, nice to see you again. Let's begin with the trucking industry, since that's your forte, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the tariffs and buying American versus buying crap from China, especially while we're in the middle of a tariff war. Your thoughts on the executive orders that President Trump signed on Monday that affect your industry directly?
Dan, thank you for having me on the show again. This is the biggest news in a long time that truckers have seen. This executive order, I believe, will only make the roads safer for all Americans. Let me break it down. No matter what country you deliver goods in, it's important to speak and read the local language, safety and compliance. In the United States, most road signs, safety warnings, permits, shipping documents, and federal transportation regulations are written in English. Yeah. When I took my commercial driver's license test, it was always in English. This is not a new concept. Being able to read and understand English ensures drivers will follow directions, comply with law, avoid accidents, read delivery instructions, and deliver cargo efficiently safely. More importantly, respond appropriately in emergencies. Let me give you 4 examples. One, let's say you and I are driving in Wyoming at nighttime, and someone yells on the CB, "Black ice." We need to instantly react with caution and slow down so we don't cause a bigger accident or a pileup. 2, let's say we're still driving at nighttime, and other drivers are screaming at us. There's a rollover in the middle of the road. Full stop. We have to throw the anchor out and stop for the safety of us and other truckers. 3, let's say we're making a delivery in Chicago, and a driver ignores a caution, low bridge sign due to limited English, and getting a truck stuck under a bridge. You know what I mean? That's going to ruin the product inside. That's going to be no good for nobody. And then number 4 is my favorite one, is that this happened in Colorado. There's a sign that reads "Emergency Runaway Truck Ramp," just in case brakes fail in the mountains.
I've seen those.
You've seen these, right? And then a truck driver was not educated what this was, and passed several ramps and killed multiple people on accident because his brakes failed. This gentleman was the one that got the 100-year sentence in Colorado because of this accident. You know, all these key communications must be understood. It might be life or death if they are not. You know, at JKC, we try to prioritize safety. We do our best to train our drivers, inform them of changing regulations, pay our insurance consultant to come in and have driver meetings with our drivers and educate them to train well-rounded drivers. You know, if a driver fails to read a sign that has weight or leg restriction, driver might end up in a residential zone, could lead a collision with a family or cause property damage.
Here's the deal. You know, this is what kills me. Of course, it was Obama and Biden that put a rule like that, that removed a rule, right, from something so important as safety when you're moving multiple tons down the road. It's dangerous enough if you're driving a car that weighs 4,500 pounds, but when you're driving an 18-wheeler and you've got it loaded down, it's tons with a plural, with an S, folks. You need somebody that knows what the hell that street sign just said as they're whizzing by at 55 with tons behind them. And this just shows that, like, the DEI crap and the whole equity garbage, this is the stuff that's been pushed since the Obama era, because why would you sign something like this that clearly removes safety from the roadway, all because you're trying to be inclusive? Well, you know, you don't know English that well. That's okay. You can be a trucker in America. Don't worry about if you miss that ramp when your brakes go out. You'll kill a few people. No big whoop. Mike, let's talk about Amazon, because Amazon needs trucks to drive their crap everywhere. 90% of the crap on Amazon is made in China. And I want your take on Bezos's move to now put for the consumer, here's the price it was, here's the new tariff price, so that they can see that the Chinese goods are costing more thanks to Trump's tariff war. I don't understand where they're going. Again, will they put a little flag on every American-made product on Amazon? No, they don't. Your thoughts, Mike?
No, Danny, you know, you're right. You know, I'm not an economist or a politician, but it's very confusing why Amazon's doing this, you know, because I always assumed that most of the goods from Amazon warehouses came from the U.S. And then, you know, when these tariff wars happen, you find out that, you know, 60% of these goods are coming from China, you know what I mean? And, you know, as a consumer of a family of 4, you know what I mean? How's this? I'm not always looking for the cheapest stuff. You know what I mean? And I would love to see a flag next to the country of origin or or seller,
right?
So I can make a decision. Yeah,
That'd be great. Let's have a little
I would-
Vietnam flag and India and Bangladesh. And I got some robes the other day. They're from Turkey. I didn't know where the hell they were from. Anyway. Mike, I don't know if Amazon is getting pressured by the consumer or maybe even the Trump administration. But after they announced a couple days ago they were going to do this crap, then evidently they put a statement out on their Twitter. This is the statement says, the team that runs our ultra low cost Amazon haul store has considered listing import charges on certain products. This was never a consideration for the main Amazon site, and nothing has been implemented on or any Amazon properties. That just dropped this morning after they claimed they were going to show the prices as a dig towards the Trump administration. So literally within hours, they're backpedaling. So I think some people, and Mike, I know you do, I think some people, consumers, business owners, are starting to understand what Trump's doing. We're going to have a little temporary pain for a lot more positive gain down the road. Correct? Few seconds left, Mike.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, how's this? It's too soon to tell what's going to happen with these tariff talks, but, you know, I support bringing these businesses back to America. You know, the cause and effect of these tariff talks is about tariff wars and why we're not producing more stuff here in America. You know, tough tariff talks is driving business back to America, which you see with Trump. We learned a hard lesson on imports. Example, during COVID, we couldn't get anything.
Yep.
The U.S. needs to embrace more bold strategies. We need, how's this? We see Hyundai, Apple, Porsche, etc. Coming back to the U.S. This will cause job creations, economic growth, which this country desperately needs, and more importantly, to get this economy roaring again.
Yep. I firmly believe he's in control. He knows what he's doing, because I don't watch CNN and listen to their lies. Mike Kurcharski, thank you, man. Appreciate you. Take care.
Thank you, man.
Yep. Coming up after the break, Trump's newly appointed U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Ed Martin's going to join us to discuss his vision for cleaning up our nation's capital.
The new Miracle Blade World Class 2012 Professional Series is the best set of knives you'll ever own. The spectacular World Class 2012 series, over a $300 value for just $39.95. But we're just getting started. We'll send you a complete second set of Miracle Blades for free. That's right, another entire set, a $300 value for free. Just pay shipping and processing. And we're still not done. If you're one of the first 500 callers, we'll send you 2 additional Miracle Blade World Class slicers. That's an additional $80 value, totally free. Miracle Blade World Class is also guaranteed for life. We'll replace any damaged knife at any time for any reason for free forever. Over $600 worth of knives for just one payment of $39.95. Don't miss this opportunity. Call right now or just log on to miracleblade.com.
HomeAglow just cleaned my entire house for $19. Seriously, $19. They showed up right on time, did my dishes, my laundry, they even cleaned my windows. You just pick a date, pick a cleaner, and enjoy a spotless house for $19. I love using HomeAglow, and I think you will too.
I can feel the winds of change.
Are you behind on your mortgage? Is the bank threatening to take your home? Are you considering trying to get a loan modification on your own? Did you know that less than 5% of people who tried on their own actually got a modification? At the Mortgage Modification Helpline, we know the rules and regulations banks don't want you to know about, and we've helped thousands of people stay in their homes. So call the Mortgage Modification Helpline today.
Please call 800-601-3290.
Welcome back. Let's continue the first 100 days of President Trump. He has firmly cemented himself as the law and order commander-in-chief. As we mark these 100 days today, since being sworn in, President Trump's Department of Homeland Security has racked up huge numbers of arrests and deportations. Since January 20th, Immigration and Customs Enforcement has arrested more than 151,000 illegal aliens, deporting more than 135,000 foreign invaders, among them 600 members of the cutthroat Tren de Aragua gang, as well as thousands of those MS-13 gang-banging thugs. The Trump administration has also revoked the visas of 4,000 foreign students. More than 90% of those affected had committed crimes such as arson, human trafficking, child endangerment, DUI, robbery, and domestic abuse. Bye. In D.C., the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia is marking Trump's 100 days by highlighting a 25% drop year to year in violent crime in our nation's capital. How about that? Ed Martin, who is also a member of the president's Making D.C. Safe and Beautiful task force, had this to say on social media about the first 100-day accomplishments. President Trump appointed me to help restore law and order to our nation's capital. And in just 100 days, we're showing what's possible. A 25% drop in violent crime isn't just a statistic. It's a signal that D.C. is turning a corner. With bold leadership and relentless enforcement, we are preparing this city to shine ahead of America's 250th birthday. I look forward to welcoming the nation to Washington to see what we've accomplished. Special thanks to the ATF Washington Field Division and the D.C. Police Department for their partnership in this effort. God bless you, and God bless the United States. And joining us now with more about his direct mission to clean up our nation's capital. And I love that our people are in these positions now. And when I say our people, I mean America First folks like my friend who appeared on this program for the last 4 or 5 years, who is now the new U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Ed Martin, back on the program. The first time in his new role, minus the facial hair. What's up, Ed?
That's right.
How you doing?
Hey, you look great. It's great to be back. I loved celebrating, as we went down the stretch, your wedding and everybody, people that love your show. It's been great. And as you point out, President Trump got in office. He's got some great people all around us.
Like you, Ed.
Well, thank you. A few blocks away is the FBI, where Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are, and a few blocks past that is the White House. Lots of good folks. But Dan, I'm really grateful to get on with you because the first 100 days, when I took this job as U.S. Attorney, people don't realize the U.S. Attorney in Washington is the district attorney for all the local crime, as well as the U.S. Attorney for federal crimes. Oh. And on the side of just the local crime, what you have to do is make a priority for what is important, and fighting violent crime is what President Trump said. We've been dragging the bad guys into federal court. We charge them with gun crimes. We charge them with violent crimes that they've done, and we get them off the streets, and it's making a difference every single day. And it's really gratifying. We have an illegal immigration initiative. We're targeting those folks. We have this gun initiative, and we're also doing the quality of life crimes where, people can't, this past couple of weeks, we had Secretary Noem got her purse stolen really quickly. That was solved, and we charged those crimes. Tesla had some cars. Tesla owners' cars were defaced on the street. We charged the guy that did that. So you want to make life better for people in the community. You have to do it by making things safer.
Now, wait a minute, Ed. Hold on. This is insane to me. You're speaking common sense. You're actually charging people and throwing the book at the bad guys, putting people in jail? Wait a minute, Ed. You can't do that in Washington, D.C. That's the city where people get away with murder, literally.
Yeah. Well, they did. They used to. And one of the things, in the first couple of days of the administration, Donald Trump pardoned 2 cops who had been charged by my predecessor. They were chasing a bad guy, and the guy ran away and ran out and got hit by a car. They actually charged the 2 cops with manslaughter, and they put him in jail. And
So
Donald
whoa.
Yeah.
The
And
bad
Donald
guy's
Trump-
fleeing the cops and gets hit, and a court charges the cops with manslaughter for the bad guy getting hit while he's evading police.
Right, exactly. And so Donald Trump pardoned those cops. And what the message was, every single day, Dan, we say to the blue, we've got your back. because we're asking them to go into neighborhoods and deal with people that have guns. We're going them to run towards the fight. You got to have their back. And so that's made a huge difference. I just took a call a few moments ago from one of the detectives, and he was saying, hey, we really appreciated that you charged this assault on a police officer about 2 weeks ago. It's making a big difference. And again, I tell people there's no quick solution. The way you do things is you lead. Donald Trump says, I'm going to lead. Let's make it safer. And every day we're doing the things that can make it safer.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to hit you on, because I'm thinking about bringing the family to DC this year for a first ever Ball family nation's capital trip and go see all the monuments and everything. I haven't done that since, a field trip in, I don't even remember, K through something. I was little. I don't think my daughter has. She's 17, and I'm not sure if my wife has or not. I'll have to ask. So I'd like to do that. However, reading the crime stats prior to your arrival and Trump's arrival, we didn't want to go to DC. Hell, I barely like going there and having to go to the One America News studio across from the Capitol building, because I always got to watch my six and think I'm going to get jacked up. And I'm worried if I carry my CCW, they'll throw me in jail because I want to protect my family. So I'm so glad you're there. Are things going to be cleaned up by this summer?
Well, actually, Dan, it's really funny you say that. The answer is yes, because here's why. President Trump is going to kick off the America 250 celebration of our 250th anniversary on May 31st of this coming year, just a month, 6 weeks from now.
Okay.
And then it's going to go for a year and 4 or 5 months to July 4th, 2026. And that's one of the reasons why he's talking so much about making DC safe and beautiful. We have worked with the mayor here, and we got rid of Black Lives Matter Square, which was an abomination. We also, working with the mayor, got rid of the homeless folks. There were camps everywhere, and we're getting them out of there. So, again, leadership, Donald Trump does this every time. People think it's magic. It's not magic. It's called being a leader. Set the course and ask people to do the job. And that's what we're doing.
There you go. All right. Well, our nation's capital should be a place where families can come and learn the rich history of what the United States of America is all about. School kids should be able to go there on field trips and feel safe. And I am so glad that President Trump's in charge and put you in charge as the attorney general there. Pretty much that's what the U.S. attorney is, as you said, the top lawmaking person for our nation's capital. God bless you, Ed Martin. And keep that phone handy, because I may be texting you this summer, okay?
All right. Sounds good. I look forward to it, Dan. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you, Ed. Up next, Bobby Kennedy Jr. makes a major announcement about chronic disease in America. We'll have more in 2. Don't go away.
Sometimes business travel takes you to Chicago, Amsterdam, Los Angeles, New Delhi, Tel Aviv, or Tokyo, and sometimes to Count of Air. Here at Book a Limo, we think globally. We think business, your business. It doesn't matter where you go. No place is too far. We're there for you.
What's your destination? Book a limo. Any car, anywhere.
If you've been injured in an accident that was not your fault and you don't have an attorney, don't go it alone. Take action. We have legal professionals standing by to help you and let you know what your case is potentially worth. Hi, I'm Paula Haddock, here with spokesman Rob Wolf. So who at home should be calling in right now, Rob?
Well, just like you said, Paula, anyone who's been injured in an accident, it was not your fault, and you do not have an attorney, call us right now. We're going to answer all of your questions, and we'll let you know what your case is potentially worth.
Thanks, Rob. Take action and call now.
Allegiance Flag Supply believes American flags should be made in America.
Our symbol of freedom made outside our borders, that did not sit right.
Join us in our mission to keep the American flag truly American. Don't settle for flags made elsewhere.
Every flag is proudly crafted in the USA with superior materials.
Visit showallegiance.com to order your high-quality, made-in-America flag today. That's showallegiance.com.
After Homoglow cleaned our place for $19, we fired our old housekeeper. Homoglow tackled everything from our kitchen to our bathroom, all our laundry. You just pick a date, pick a cleaner, and enjoy a spotless house for $19.
Are you looking for a trustworthy publishing company to publish your book?
Covenant Books is an author-friendly publisher who shares your passion and beliefs. Call us today and we'll send you a free author packet to help get you started.
Call the number right now for your free writer's guide.
Making America healthy again. The head of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., continuing his quest, his mission, sent by God. He said that so many times. He's like, I've prayed to God for 25 years to send me somebody so I could get in and make America healthy. And here we go. So we've talked about getting the dyes out of our food. We've talked about autism. Well, this week, now Bobby is seeking to prioritize chronic conditions, he says, over infectious diseases like measles and COVID. In an interview yesterday with Dr. Phil, RFK Jr., stated that every kid who has got a diabetes diagnosis, that should be a headline, and every kid who gets an autism diagnosis, that should be a headline, but you never read about them because the media is obsessed with infectious disease. They are. I mean, look what they did with COVID, right, Bobby? Taking the toxins out of America's food supply is also, as I said, a huge priority for Bobby. The FDA will be banning artificial dyes in our food supply by the end of next year. HHS and the FDA unveiled a series of new measures to phase out all petroleum-based synthetic dyes from everything in our food supply. You're talking about the pop or soda, soft drinks, wherever you call them where you're from, pop where I'm from, candy, desserts, your breakfast cereals, your jellies and jams, everything. 9 petroleum-based chemical dyes are currently permitted in the U.S. That's right. The FDA said, okay, to 9 of them, even though most normal countries say no to them. In response to the new measures, there's companies already getting on board. PepsiCo now ramping up efforts to phase out artificial colors and reduce other ingredients in all of their products. Some of their company's biggest brands, obviously Pepsi, but you know what? They also own Lay's, Tostitos, and they say they're going to get all this crap out by the end of this year, not next year, which is the deadline set by RFK. How about that? Joining us now to discuss these moves being made by HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. She is the CEO of Children's Health Defense. Pretty fitting. Mary Holland on the program. Mary, nice to see you. You got to be excited. I got to think someone that has a job and runs an organization like you do, the minute Bobby put his hand on that Bible in the Oval Office and was sworn in, I got to think you had chills and you were pretty darn excited about what is to come. And now, 100 days in, we're actually seeing these things take shape, right?
Oh, absolutely. We're not even 100 days in, and Bobby Kennedy founded Children's Health Defense. So it's thrilling that he's in this position, and it's thrilling that he's starting to get people on board. I was so happy to hear what you just said, that the companies are saying, we're going to get these dyes out faster. I mean, what could be better than that, of creating a consensus that we don't want petroleum-based synthetic dyes in our foods? It's like, this shouldn't be contentious. And I think on food, really, he's helping the corporations to do the hard work. He's saying, you phase them out, you figure out the details. And it appears like they're doing that, which is just wonderful.
Well, Mary, let's be real. If they've got some folks still working in these companies that are old enough, they'll remember a few decades back when we didn't have this crap in our food, right? Because this dye was not allowed in, I got to think, in the 40s, 50s, 60s. When did we start putting this garbage in our food and drink and candy?
Yeah, it's starting after World War II, and the chemical industry really ramped up. And this is all about making these products sort of more bright colored, especially marketing them to children. There is literally, these are not foods. These are dyes. They're based on, petroleum products. So I'm thrilled because, especially for children, Dan, they really can cause hyperactivity disorder. They really can trigger some pretty serious neurological issues. So this is just a great, pretty easy step. As you point out, Western Europe, Canada, they don't allow this stuff. They haven't allowed stuff for ages.
I know. I always joke about the bottle of ketchup I saw when traveling. Just pull up a bottle of ketchup in any normal, not a third world country, but any normal country. Go to Canada, go to England, whatever, pull it up and look at our Heinz 57 and look at theirs. It's pretty startling. What do you make of, go ahead.
No, just to say, it is. We permit additives, preservatives, colorings, dyes that really aren't permitted elsewhere in the developed world.
Yeah, it's pretty disgusting. But it's all going to go bye-bye thanks to Bobby and Trump. What about Bobby's statement that we're not going to focus so much on the infectious diseases, that we got that handled. Let's go after the chronic things. Let's try and find a cure for autism, right? Maybe for Alzheimer's. How about cancer? And not worry so much about the annual flu and the measles and the mumps. We got that handled. But he's right. The media freaks out every time we got another bird flu strain.
Yeah, well, he's been saying this for a long time, long before he got to HHS. He said, chronic disease is what is really the crisis. So over half of adults in the country have some kind of chronic health condition. Over half of children, like 60% of kids, have some kind of health concern. Over 3/4 of teenagers couldn't qualify to be in the military if they wanted to because their health is so poor.
Oh, no.
So I totally agree with him. 90% of what we spend as a country is on chronic health conditions. It's not infectious diseases. The pharmaceutical industry makes money on chronic disease. They make money on infectious disease. It's just time that we reorient our priorities to what people are actually dealing with that's a problem. Infectious diseases were deadly in the 19th century. They really were. We didn't have sanitation. We didn't have refrigeration. We didn't have antibiotics. They were deadly. A lot of children didn't make it to adulthood. But that age is over. And what we're really dealing with now is chronic disease. We're sort of fighting the last war with infectious disease instead of focusing what's really harming people.
Yeah, no kidding. Speaking of those big bad pharmaceutical companies, your old boss, Bobby, called him out. Roll this, will you please?
The problem is industry is making money on keeping us sick. As Jay pointed out, ADHD is associated with all these behavioral disorders. But those disorders are treated not by changing our diet, but providing medications to treat our kids. And they get medicated, and that's the only solution. And, I would point out that there is part of the etiology of these diseases is a kind of media malpractice, a mass psychosis that has our media not talking about this. And one of the possible reasons for that is the amount of money that's coming from the pharmaceutical companies.
I'll give you the final thought on his statement about Big Pharma keeping us sick and pretty much owning the mainstream media, which, by the way, I agree with everything he said.
So, he said again for a long time, there's nothing more profitable to the pharmaceutical industry than a sick child. That is a customer for life. And so I completely agree with what he said. And the media has been complicit because the major advertiser on most networks is the pharmaceutical industry. So I'm so thrilled that we're starting to change these things.
Yep. And I hope he gets that taken care of too, because I know that's one more goal. I know this was the last thing, but I'm just throwing this in. I know he wants to get Big Pharma off of TV. I think that's great. No more advertising every freaking second, right? Sick.
Right.
Mary.
100%.
Mary Holland, CEO, Children's Health Defense. Thank you so much. You're welcome back anytime.
Thank you.
Stick around, folks. Up next, how are President Trump's tariffs affecting farmers and ranchers? We're going to take a look at that when we return in 2.
Partnering with my good friend Lee Greenwood, I encourage you to get this God Bless USA Bible.
Introducing the limited edition God Bless the USA Bible, inspired by Lee Greenwood's hit song and the most recognized patriotic anthem in America, God Bless the USA. The God Bless the USA large print leather-bound King James Bible also contains America's founding documents, designed for an easy reading experience in the trusted King James Version translation. This large print Bible is perfect to take to church, Bible study, work, and for traveling. Order yours today at GodBlessTheUSABible.com.
This Bible is a reminder that the biggest thing we have to bring back America and to make America great again is our religion. You all should get a copy of God Bless the USA Bible now and help spread our Christian values with others. Let's make America pray again. God bless you, and God bless the USA.
Are you behind on your mortgage? Is the bank threatening to take your home? Is your house underwater because you owe more than it's worth? Are you considering trying to get a loan modification on your own? Did you know that less than 5% of people who tried on their own actually got a modification? At the Mortgage Modification Helpline, we know the rules and regulations banks don't want you to know about. And we've helped thousands of people stay in their homes. Are you struggling to keep up? Are you past due on your mortgage? If so, we can help. It doesn't matter if you have bad credit, been turned down, or if you're currently getting the runaround from your lender. The call and consultation is free, and it only takes a few minutes to find out if we can help. So call the Mortgage Modification Helpline today, and let's get your loan modified into one you can afford.
Please call 800-378-1506. That is 800-378-1506.
Have you ever felt leg pain, restlessness, cramps, tingling, swelling, numbness, itchiness, or coldness? Then you need the new, clinically proven Legzercise Pro, the natural circulation booster that uses continuous automatic leg movement to soothe pain and promote healthy circulation the natural drug-free way.
After using Legzercise for a week, I felt like I wanted to go for a walk again without pain like I used to.
Legzercise Pro's patented walking simulator propulsion technology moves your feet back and forth along its concave track, creating constant movement and flex at both the knee and ankle joints. It's like having a physical therapist right in your own home.
It's helped with the swelling and the pain. The tingling feeling is gone.
Call right now and order your very own Legzercise Pro, the clinically proven automatic leg mover that soothes pain and naturally promotes healthy circulation. Call now.
All right, it's official, the first 100 days. As expected, though, President Trump's tariffs are taking a heavy toll on certain industries like American farmers and ranchers. This as Chinese orders for products from us going to them have plummeted. Again, you can't right the ship overnight, folks. Our farmers, our ranchers, they've been getting the cold shoulder and pretty much screwed over when it comes to trade back and forth with China and other nations for decades. Last week, China made its largest cancellation of pork orders since the COVID pandemic in 2020, halting a shipment of 12,000 tons of pork. USDA also reported that China dropped its soybean orders to just 1,800 tons in the week ending April 17th, down more than 97% from the nearly 73,000 tons they bought the week before. It's not all bad, however, for the American farmer and rancher. Under a 1944 treaty, Mexico is obligated to send Texas water from the Rio Grande while the U.S. sends Mexico water from the Colorado River. However, because Mexico has fallen far behind in its obligations, Trump's State Department denied a request for water to Tijuana, marking the first U.S. denial since the treaty took effect decades ago. Good. And that brings us to some better news. Because of the State Department's action, plus a demand from President Trump to address the crisis impacting South Texas farmers, a deal was struck with Mexico, promising to increase the share of water from 6 of Mexico's Rio Grande tributaries. So again, a lot of negotiating back and forth, folks, with multiple countries. This is going to take a hot second. Now, all of this talk of ranchers and farmers brings us to an update to a story that we told you about earlier this month concerning a South Dakota ranching couple recently charged with theft of federal property by the government. In June of 2024, Charles and Heather Maud were indicted for allegedly converting about 50 acres of national grasslands for grazing cattle and cultivating their crops. Now, the Mauds, there they are. What a great looking family. As Trump would say, straight out of Central Casting, they look like a beautiful South Dakota family. Ranchers, look at them. The Mauds are breathing a huge sigh of relief today. Big announcement yesterday coming from the Trump administration declaring that the U.S. government that was taking them to task, they were facing years in prison. Guess what? Trump heard about it, dropped all criminal charges. Bye-bye. U.S. Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins says the family has endured senseless, political motivated prosecution that was waged by the Biden regime. Rollins goes on to say that government resources for prosecution should be focused on real criminals, not a family farm trying to make ends meet. Beautiful, beautiful. And I also hear, and we'll check with our next guest, America, fuck yeah!